in college. Her parents were strict when she was in high school, so I'm the first person she's ever dated. Because of their religious beliefs, her parents oppose having sex before marriage. We've been waiting since Katie and her parents are really close, even though I don't really care about it. I had intended to pop the question within the next 6 months now that she had graduated. I had chosen a ring and everything. This girl had me completely smitten. But last night, or more precisely last weekend, that all changed. Since high school, Katie has had a male closest friend, whom her parents disapproved of due to his sexual orientation. Let us refer to him as Liam. Being in the same college as him meant they could spend as much time together as they wanted, which made her very happy. Although I've never been a huge fan of the male best friend dynamic, I was willing to overlook it because he was allegedly gay. However, he came out as bisexual 2 years ago. I requested Katie to stop spending time with him alone because I never felt comfortable in his presence. She said that, like her parents, I tried to control her and didn't support him. I informed her that I would not be staying for it, but that it was up to her if she wanted to continue seeing him alone. Although it was the largest issue we had ever faced together, we managed to resolve it. As a compromise, we agreed that Liam and his partner could spend time with me and Katie together, but never by themselves. I only wanted to establish a fair limit. I never intended to cut her off from her pals. But until Liam transferred to another institution during the summer, the four of us only met up twice. Katie continued to communicate with him via Discord, maintained friendships with him and his ex-boyfriend, and even joined them and a few other pals to create a gaming server. Despite the fact that the majority of these buddies were guys, she reassured me that nothing amusing was happening and that the majority of them even had girlfriends. Liam invited her to his birthday celebration last weekend. To make sure I was comfortable with her leaving, Katie wanted to discuss it with me first. Even though it was only a 2-hour drive away, she claimed she hadn't seen him in 2 years. There would be a number of her Discord server pals, including women, who she had never met in person before, as well as Liam's girlfriend. Unfortunately, I couldn't accompany her because I had a weekend excursion scheduled that would take me out on Friday and return on Sunday. However, I assured Katie that I trusted her and that I didn't mind if she went to see her friends. The issue began on Saturday evening. She sent me a text message in the morning while she was heading to the party, another text when she arrived, and a few more messages to check in during the day. Around 9 or 10 p.m., Katie informed me she intended to drive back. However, the messages ceased at that moment. I didn't bother her because I thought she was just enjoying herself and didn't want to come across as domineering. She eventually arrived at approximately 2 in the morning, and I stayed up to keep an eye on her whereabouts to make sure she got home safely. Although it was out of the ordinary, I trusted her and didn't want to assume anything. I assumed she would explain that she simply got caught up in having fun with her pals when I called her in the morning. She didn't pick up the phone when I called her on Sunday morning. A few minutes later, she wrote back to say she wasn't feeling well, had been sleeping, and had a hangover. Given that Katie doesn't drink, this was odd. I wished her well, advised her to drink a lot of water, and boarded my trip home. She was cuddled up in my bed, in the dark, when I got to my flat. She has my apartment's key, but she rarely uses it because I'm typically there to open the door with her. She remained silent when I questioned her about why she hadn't stayed at her flat to relax. She has hardly left my room since and has been complaining about not feeling well for the entire week. I've been visiting home during my lunch breaks to check on her since she took time off from work. In the back of my mind, I was dubious of what had transpired at the party over the weekend, but I was also frightened for her. Katie sobbed as she woke me up from the couch late last night. Other than using the restroom, it was the first time Mom had left my room since I returned home. I asked her what was wrong after comforting her until she was able to speak clearly. She told me that she had committed a terrible act. Liam offered to bring her home after she admitted to being incredibly intoxicated, by accident on Saturday night. After leaving Liam off, 3 of her buddies from the Discord gaming server hopped in a second car to follow them and drive her home. They assisted Katie in climbing the stairs and entering her flat once they arrived. Then she had intercourse with them all, she claimed. Each of the 4 men. According to Katie, she was completely out of it and doesn't recall the majority of it. Because she loves me so much and didn't want to upset me, she said she's been unwell ever since and has been trying to figure out how to tell me. She threw away her virginity, which she was ostensibly saving for marriage, to 4 other guys rather than the man who had taken care of her for the previous 4 years, even though she didn't mean to upset me. I found her at my apartment because she said she intended to inform me as soon as I returned, but she couldn't bring herself to do so since she didn't want to lose me. She pleaded with me not to end our relationship. I informed her that I needed some alone time to reflect. After that, she pleaded with me not to force her to return to her apartment. I told her she may return to my room as I didn't want to quarrel. Throughout the night, I could hear her sobbing sporadically. Admittedly, I was moved to tears myself. It's unbelievable that she would ruin our 4 years of relationship over a single party. I was about to pop the question. My faith in her has been betrayed. I haven't been able to concentrate all day at work. If she's still there, a part of me wants to tell her to leave as soon as I get home and that I don't want to see her ever again. A part of me wants to speak with her more and try to repair what we have left. I am unable to determine which perspective is more rational. How can I get around this? Update. This is triggering alerts everywhere. I apologize to everyone who missed my last post. I'm finally getting around to writing this because my girlfriend went to bed early and I have nothing else to do. To start, if you don't care, you can go straight to the update. I believe my previous post was removed due to accusations of being fraudulent. I wasn't spending time in the comments refuting every charge, which is one of the main reasons why many appear to believe it was a fake. Since I left work to see how Katie was doing, I hadn't even opened Reddit. At the time, it wasn't even close to my top priority. One moment he says he has her location and the next he's surprised she's at his apartment? Is a simple and quick way to refute this. Just to make sure she made it home safely, I looked up her whereabouts on Saturday night. Since I am not a stalker who follows her everywhere, I did not look up her location after that. I wouldn't have known her precise location unless I had checked our texts between my trip and my arrival home because the iPhone displays your location in the text messages you exchange with that person. Furthermore, not everyone owns an iPhone. My girlfriend and I use an app since I do but she doesn't. I don't need to be a stalker, therefore no, I don't receive notifications from the app. Random excessive details, I apologize. I wanted to let everything out since, as I previously stated, I had been holding my breath since she informed me what had transpired that evening. I had all of those information about the situation circling around in my mind. The core content is flawless, but the update is riddled with typos. Only the TLDR update was written by the OP. After learning that my partner may have been raped, I apologize for being a little disorganized and rushed. By the way, I've gone back and corrected the mistakes. After I shut down Reddit, I had no clue that my article would receive hundreds of more comments, each of them critically examining every word I said in the letter. There isn't any worry at all that she's become pregnant? No concerns regarding STIs? Not then. No, I wasn't even certain that I would remain with her. If I had stayed, I would have been worried about becoming pregnant and getting STIs, but at the time of writing, I thought she had cheated on me and was considering ending our relationship. No worries that she was potentially drugged and raped. Not at the time of writing, once more. She had told me that she had intercourse with 4 men, and I was still in shock. I would have thought she would have mentioned getting raped or drugged, but she didn't. I hadn't even considered the possibility that she might be in denial herself until I read all the responses. Does this devout girl who desired to postpone marriage now want to be train run on her? Fake, of course. No, it turns out that she didn't want anything to do with what transpired. Look at the remainder of the subreddit if you're among those who said, someone in my position wouldn't have taken the time to write everything out for a post. There wouldn't be any posts here at all if people in difficult situations didn't share their experiences. You may personally expletive off everyone who implied that it was a hoax or that she must have been a cow for 4 men to carry her up the stairs. Even though I wish what I wrote wasn't true, everything above was a bunch of pretentious bullshit. For the record, I just included all of that in order to prevent harassment on this thread. If none of that applies to you, you can go straight to this section. I want to express my gratitude to everyone who assisted with this, as reading over all of the comments let me realize what actually occurred. Just before lunch, I left work and went straight home to see how my girlfriend was doing. She was lying in bed, sobbing, just as I had left her. After getting her permission, my initial action was to simply go hold her. I shared her tears. I eventually broached the subject of what had transpired that evening. Was any of that really what she wanted to happen? Despite the fact that a lot was said, she did not, as many of you urged. To be clear, the friends she was with at the party were also intimate friends of Liam, her best buddy of 8 years, and not just strangers she met online. They were folks she had spoken to and played games with over the past year, but she had never met them in person. Over her headset, I would frequently hear her conversing with them, and I never noticed anything odd. I was glad she had people to play with as she gamed because she's somewhat shy and introverted. She also claimed that there were 4 or 5 ladies working in the server, so they weren't all men. 3 of the guys and 2 of the ladies were present at the gathering. Liam's girlfriend, a few of other pals, and several of their partners were also there. There were only around 15 people in total, and most of them knew one another. A little get-together of Liam's closest pals at his residence was all that was intended to happen. It wasn't even intended for alcohol to play a significant role. Since they hadn't been able to come together in person for a while, The most of them were just enjoying themselves at the start of the party. Since many of the attendees were LGBTQ+, there was little distinction between the sexes. To engage in general mingling and socializing, some people divided into small groups to talk. One of the visitors gave everyone mystery shots about the halfway point of the celebration. Liam persuaded Katie to take it for his birthday, even though she first objected. Everyone urged her to try the shot after learning that she had never had one before. Liam emphasized that it was just one shot, and that it would wear off before she had to drive home. If not, he offered, she may wait as long as it took for her to feel safe behind the wheel. She finally took the shot because she felt pressed. Things became a little less obvious after that. More people were drinking and hanging out. She is unsure of the specific individuals who continued to give her alcohol, claiming she didn't want to spoil Liam's celebration. If nothing else, she was confident Liam would protect her. Katie claimed that even though she didn't feel well, she trusted him to let her know if something wasn't right and that he kept telling her that everything was okay. She recalls being quite ill, witnessing other people faint on the couch, and hearing Liam express his desire to drive her home himself in order to check on her. He expressed regret for allowing her to become so damaged and apologized. She recalls 2 other Discord males getting into his car after one of her friends promised Liam he would follow them in his car and bring Liam back later. She remembers Liam helping her get sober in the car by offering her a bottle of water. She recalls them laughing as they carried her upstairs to her apartment and brought her inside. I won't go into any more detail than that. She didn't want anything that occurred to happen. Was she gullible? Perhaps. Did she likely overlook some warning signs and make some poor decisions? Yes. However, Katie wasn't worthy of that. The men who committed this are to blame. I'm not giving her a deadline, and she doesn't want to disclose anything to the police. I completely support her decision, and I've read a lot about how horrible that process can be. Of course, I'll support her through that as well if she ever decides she does want to submit a report. We're going to visit a physician. Katie claims that she has been in a lot of discomfort, which is one of the reasons she spent the majority of this time curled up in bed. After some persuasion and assurance, she consented even though she really doesn't want to be prodded down there. In addition to seeing her on Monday, we'll also get tested for STI and pregnancy, 2 things we're equally concerned about. We've spoken a lot over the weekend. Both of us have shed many tears. Hugs and consoling one another when necessary have been shared in abundance. At least she gets some sunlight in the bedroom now that I've opened the curtains. I'm not forcing her to return to her apartment, for those who were worried. And to those who suggested it, no, I won't be ratting her out to her parents, nor would I abandon her now or after she recovers in order to find someone who isn't damaged. In order to care for her, attend as many doctor's visits as necessary, schedule therapy and other activities, I will be taking the entire next week off. Although I doubt I will ever be able to make up for the time I spent apart from her this past week, I promise to support her through whatever comes next. Once more, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who left a comment on my initial post and made me understand what a self-centered idiot I was. I hope that everyone who was worried would find this update helpful. Though I hope we can get there, Katie isn't feeling well at the moment. Comments where OP has replied. Commenter, Op, you do what you think is best, but I want to add something to make sure she considers it because these pieces of Yirnavran do this to all women, not just herself, as much as I would like to say. Katie won't be the last, she wasn't the first. These rapes are mama bam. She is prepared to allow this to occur repeatedly if she is unwilling to act morally and report the violence. You should also speak with Liam, her friend, and find out why he abandoned her to be raped. This is what he did. He let it occur. He has to deal with this, and he can either support her or oppose her. She must inform her parents. You are sticking with a cheater, therefore please stop updating if she is unwilling to do this, OP. OP. I will not issue an ultimatum to her. She doesn't report, so I won't label her a cheater. Following the re-traumatization that comes with reporting and everything that follows, rape victims have taken their own lives. I gave it a thorough investigation. Have you, or are you assuming, without having first-hand experience, what occurs in our legal system? Warning. All 4 of them would probably walk even if she did report. Nor am I forcing her to tell her overly devout parents so they can try to embarrass her. Man, she is not responsible for this. The men who committed this are the ones who must be prepared to act morally and put an end to child rape. Mom sold our dad's house to buy her new husband a boat, now she's begging me for a place to stay after he left. Behind our backs, Mom sold our dad's house to purchase a yacht for her unemployed new husband, who later left her for someone else. She spent all the money and now begs to live with me. If that's the right description in this context, my 50F mother has had a pretty interesting life. My grandparents felt that women should take care of the home and family, so it was okay that she was never a good student. She still adheres to the same values that she was raised with. At the age of 20, 2 years after graduating from school, she married my dad. She gave birth to my older sister Jasmine, now 29F, when I was 21, and to me Bianca, now 27F, 2 years later. Dad was always closer to my sister and me. He was quite supportive, although he didn't agree with Mom. He made it a point to always be there, enrolled us in a number of extracurricular activities, and pushed us to succeed academically. I enjoyed drawing, so Dad surrounded me with art tools. Dad also made sure my sister never missed a day of soccer practice since he saw her potential there. My mother was tremendously annoyed by the fact that he was constantly there for us. She disapproved of our pastimes. She disliked that we were intellectually minded, and as a result of our nature, and Dad's encouragement, she actually lost a lot of respect in her family. We were disliked by my maternal grandparents in particular. When Dad died when I was 11, everything changed. He died a few days after being hospitalized following an automobile accident. My mother suffered a severe financial and emotional setback as a result, and naturally, so did the rest of us. We were done financially, but I don't want to discuss the mental turmoil we endured since it is irrelevant. We didn't have enough insurance to pay for the thousands of dollars Dad's hospital stay had cost. My mother had no savings of her own because she was unemployed, and the majority of his savings were used to cover the bills. I recall that we had to sell a lot of our belongings a few weeks following his passing. My sister stopped attending soccer practice, I sold my painting supplies, and we were assigned housework. I detested every aspect of my life's transformation, but since I was still reliant on my mother, there was nothing I could do about it. My paternal grandparents helped out at that point. They lived 3 states away, so we didn't see each other very often, so we had never been close, but they were always kind to me when I did see them. My grandfather was startled to learn that Mom had sold my belongings to make ends meet when he came to see us. He offered to pay for our interests and pastimes, but my mother rejected the idea, claiming she needed the money to support us rather than to finance our useless interests. She advised him to send money for power or groceries if he so desired. My grandfather became irritated and offered to cover the additional expenses if she worked to earn a living. She was in charge of making sure we survived, and he would only assist if she did her job. That's what happened when my mother said no. My mother was still receiving donations from family members and hadn't begun working at that time. Additionally, we had a lot of these handouts in some months and almost nothing in others. Our expenses were primarily covered by her parents. Because she sincerely believed that it was a man's job to provide, she flatly refused to find a job, claiming that the males in her family had a responsibility to support her. For several months, this continued, and her parents felt sorry for her and us and they took care of us. However, that money suddenly stopped being received on a regular basis. Due to Mom's extreme financial hardship, Jasmine and I had to work to supplement our income. We could be seen at a neighbor's house every weekend, weeding their garden, strolling their dog, etc. Even though it was difficult, Mom didn't start working. When her parents finally had enough, they sat her down to have a conversation. They informed her that they could no longer provide for her and us since they had made plans for how they would spend their retirement years and could no longer afford to care for us. Mom was really surprised by this since she had thought that because Dad had passed away, her father should be responsible for looking after us because men provide. Given how my grandparents had brought her up, it was difficult to dispute with such reasoning. However, they were now shifting their position. According to them, the husband's role was to support his wife, and if he passed away, the wife would have to take care of the children. My mom and her sister had been informed that all of their possessions would pass to their brother, so they were effectively cutting her off. There was a lot of crying and name-calling during the confrontation, but my grandparents refused to back down. My mother sought assistance from Auntie Janice, her sister. Now, Auntie Janice loved us and was a wonderful woman. Although they didn't spend much time with us, her husband, a surgeon, was willing to assist. However, the amount of money we received from them was insufficient to sustain a family of 3. Mom then returned to my paternal grandparents. In exchange for my mom working, my grandfather was more than happy to assist. We couldn't have survived without their assistance, so she was forced to accept. Our lives had returned to normal after she secured a well-paying housekeeping position at a neighboring hotel. We were able to return to a comfortable lifestyle with the assistance of our grandfather and uncle. For the next 2 years, until I was 14 and my sister was 16, this arrangement persisted. Our mother introduced us to Dan at that point. Her new lover, Dan, was interested in marrying her. After just one glance at him, Jasmine and I felt repulsed. I'm not kidding when I say that he smelt and looked like a pig. It seemed like he hadn't taken a bath since high school. He had a lost expression on his face and smelled like cigarettes, as though he was unable to hear anything that was said to him. Needless to say, Jasmine and I harbored a deep hatred for him in addition to our disapproval. Regretfully, Mom professed to be deeply in love with him. Jasmine and I were pledged to silence, and they were married in a hush-hush ceremony. We had to keep Mom's second marriage a secret from Dad's side of the family. She was concerned that our grandparents would discontinue the monthly payments if they learned, and because it was a sizable sum, we truly couldn't have survived without it. Jasmine and I therefore said nothing. When Mom married Dan, I'm not sure what was going through her mind, but I believe she believed that if she married and had a guy in her life, she wouldn't have to work any longer and he would take care of everything. She quit her work and returned home a week after they were married, so I'm sure she assumed that. Dan's unemployment was the issue. It was a persistent one. He was only able to work for 2 months at a time, after which he would spend his time playing video games at home and only hunt for a new job when he became tired of them. This man didn't intend to support any of us, so all of Mom's dreams came crashing down. In order to get some spending money, Jasmine and I resumed working odd jobs for people. Therefore, my mother's sister's husband or my father's parents provided the majority of the family's income. To put it mildly, it was dysfunctional, and Jasmine and I were eager to go. We concentrated on school and our part-time jobs, avoiding contact with Mom and Dan. For the following 4 years, until I departed for college and stopped talking to Mom, this was the setup. Mom and Dan were having issues by the time I was about to leave. To be honest, neither my sister nor I were surprised to learn that Dan was not just unemployed but also a chronic cheater. Things were messy, but Mom continued ignoring them or forgiving him. After I started college, I stopped talking to my mother. My mother somehow always knew what was happening in my life since I kept in touch with my grandparents, aunt and uncle. I found a respectable career after graduating from college at the age of 23. The issue was that my promotions and raises were little because I graduated just before COVID. Life kind of stopped for a while because I was unable to save as much as I had hoped. The wonderful grandpa offered me some assistance, but I declined because I didn't want to burden him. Fortunately, I didn't lose my job, so I shouldn't be too upset. I received a significant pay increase and a promotion at work a few months ago. Since I had also saved money over the COVID years by living as cheaply as possible, this put me in a good position to purchase a modest home. Despite my goal of owning a home by the age of 25, I was content with the 2-year wait. I'm not sure how, but my mother discovered that I had purchased a home. She called me and said she had not seen her baby in a long time and wanted to meet up. Since I hadn't seen her since my last semester of college, I sensed something wasn't right. After that, neither she nor I had ever volunteered to meet. I promised to get back to her and let her know when I had some spare time. I had no intention of ever getting back to her. She went on to say that I had to notify her right away since it was essential. I excused myself and hung up the phone since I knew she was asking for something. She phoned me again 2 days later and said she needed my assistance since she was in a bit of a mess. She stated she had heard I had purchased a home and wanted me to allow her and Dan to move in before I could even consent. In essence, they wanted to live with me in my home. Her arrogance made me chuckle uncontrollably. I expressed to her my surprise that Dan was still alive and my wish that she had moved on from him. I informed her that, contrary to her assumption, I did not own a house. Rather, it was an apartment with a balcony, and the 3 of us could not possibly fit there. I hoped the size and space argument would be sufficient to dissuade her because I didn't want to explicitly tell her that I didn't want her there. I had been too optimistic though. She then informed me that I could leave the flat as it was only 1 bedroom, allowing her and Dan to move in together. I informed her that was not possible because I had put in a lot of effort to have someone else reside in my home. I also needed to pay off my mortgage. She lost it when I told her that I would rent her the going rate. She began yelling at me, claiming that she hadn't brought up her daughters to be such leeches, and that she couldn't believe I was renting from my own mother. She could go somewhere else to beg for crumbs, I told her, and I didn't have time for her or her yelling. I blocked her after hanging up. Jasmine told me she hadn't received a comparable call from Mom when I contacted her. A month has passed since their last conversation, during which Mom inquired about her residence. Jasmine informed her that she and her partner had moved in together and were saving money for a home. Why Mom needed a place to stay in the first place was beyond me. Dan had moved in with us in our dad's old house, where we grew up, and she still owned it. I didn't understand why she felt the need to relocate so quickly. To inquire about the residence, I gave my paternal grandparents a call. I finally realized what was actually happening at that point. My grandfather's name was on the house where we were raised. When my grandparents died, it was technically meant to go to Dad. It was agreed that my father and his brother, our Uncle Liam, would each receive a house that belonged to my grandfather, allowing them to live there without paying rent. This was intended to provide them with a solid foundation in life and enable them to make real estate investments for their kids. Therefore, the deed to the house we grew up in was legally in my grandfather's name rather than my father's. My grandma insisted that Grandpa keep the house in his name after Dad passed away so that Jasmine and I could inherit it as adults. But Grandpa didn't want to cause Mom any more problems because she was unemployed. I believe he also felt sorry for her, which is why he gave my mother ownership of the house when she requested him to. This was done with the idea that the house would be delivered to us when Jasmine was 27 and I turned 25. I now think this is the reason Mom warned us not to bring up the fact that she had married Dan. But soon, word spread. Grandpa claims that when they learned that she had remarried, they were angry because she had concealed it from them. At that point, they sought to transfer the house's ownership as quickly as possible. They insisted on finishing the papers to ensure that Dan and Mom couldn't do anything with the house because Jasmine was an adult and I was almost one. However, Mom cleverly informed them that Dan had moved on to someone else a few weeks after they had made their plans known. Her uncontrollable tears naturally caused my grandparents to give up on pursuing the ownership issue. They eventually forgot about it, and it became less important. Since then, they had only sometimes communicated with her, and that was the last time they discussed the house with her. I informed Grandpa that Mom had called to express her desire to move in with Dan at my place. What had happened to Dad's house, if such were the case? Since he was unaware that she had reconciled with Dan or that she was relocating, he indicated he would make an effort to learn more. This makes me uneasy, and I have a hunch that more drama will soon break out. Edit. To all of the commenters, I'm shocked that I was unaware of such significant information about my mother's life. This is what happens when you don't communicate with her. I don't regret my decision to shut her out of my life. I left the house and her life as soon as I reached 18, and ever since, I've been quite formal with her. I was unaware that Dan had left her and that he would return because of this. Jasmine and I were children, which is why we were unaware of the mansion. Both our grandparents and our mother were supposed to keep us safe. For this reason, the subject of real estate or home ownership was never discussed. We were minors at the time, and Grandpa and Grandma were dealing with our mother, who was meant to look after us, not defraud us, so they never considered talking to us about it. Jasmine and I are currently unaware of what transpired with Dad's house, but we plan to ask Mom and, if necessary, plan an intervention. I'll keep you all informed. Update 1. It's not good. Jasmine, her boyfriend, my grandparents and I made the decision to meet with Mom 2 weeks after my initial post in an attempt to find out what was going on. She was taken aback when we arrived because we had not informed her of our arrival. The finest aspect. A young couple opened the door when we arrived at our house, which was Dad's house and the place we grew up in. They claimed to be the property's owners, but at first we assumed they were Dan's family or perhaps Mom's acquaintances. They were telling the truth, but I didn't trust them, so I wanted to laugh. Without telling Jasmine or me or obtaining my grandparents' approval, Mom had sold the house. It's also interesting to note that the sale took place more than 6 months ago. There is nothing we can do now because she secretly sold our house 6 months ago. Regretfully, she was the legitimate owner of the house and had the right to sell it because my grandparents never finished the paperwork and ownership transfer. Everyone is shocked by this, and we all feel deceived and repulsed. We made an effort to locate her residence. It was in a 1-bedroom apartment in a seedy part of downtown, surrounded by junkies. I wasn't shocked to see that this was Dan's apartment because he seemed to be a junkie himself. Mom went white as a ghost when she saw us all standing together. We refused to let her shut the door as she attempted to do so. Fortunately, Jasmine's boyfriend, who is 6'4" and somewhat scary, was with us. Dan was sitting on the couch, smoking a cigarette and wearing a disoriented expression as we pushed our way inside. Mom gave us a tense greeting, but we immediately attacked. I informed her that Mom had sold Dad's house without telling Jasmine, me, or our grandparents, and that I knew it was meant for us. She started crying and claimed that Dan wouldn't have returned if she hadn't done it. She basically broke down in tears as she related how Dan had abandoned her twice for 2 separate women. Grandpa had truly departed when Mom told him Dan had left during their talk about the house. For him to return, she had to beg and plead. After being evicted from his new girlfriend's home, he eventually came back. Then, a year later, Mom discovered that he was having an affair with a girl who was just barely out of her teens. I simply stared at her as if she were crazy. When he was so troublesome and not supporting her in any manner, I questioned why she hadn't left him. I didn't have the patience to feel sorry for her, and she didn't respond to that. My grandmother was enraged. She yelled at her mother, telling her that she didn't want to hear justifications for her extreme failure. The house Jasmine and I were meant to live in was all that mattered to her. According to Mom, Dan wanted to purchase a yacht, so she sold the house. I don't know much about boats, but I do know that this man decided he wanted a boat after working as a coast guard at a beach a few miles away for a few months. If Mom didn't assist him in purchasing one, he threatened to abandon her once more. Thus, my mother, the world's greatest genius, sold her home and spent a portion of the proceeds to purchase a boat for this fool. She handed him the remaining funds rather than keeping them for herself. He used every last cent of it. He had to sell the yacht and purchase the apartment they were residing in when they had nothing left. And you know what? They detested it. Mom wanted to ask if I could allow her and Dan to remain with me because of this. When her story was over, she conceded defeatingly that she was certain I would no longer allow her to remain with me. Jasmine attacked her before I could respond, and wow, she was vicious. She enumerated the ways in which Mom had failed Dad as a wife and us as a mother. In order to support her uncaring husband, she had taken away the one thing that would have allowed us to remain connected to our father. She informed Mom that she would never hear from her again and that she was dead to her. I agreed with Jasmine, but I was still in shock and couldn't say much. I didn't want to do anything with my mom. Mom broke down in tears and said that she didn't deserve to be treated this way. We informed her that she did. Most significantly, she had deprived us of a link to our father and our early years. She had also stolen from our grandparents. We had no intention of ever forgiving her. We went out. She has since attempted to contact our grandparents and us, but none of us are able to get through to her. The money and property are permanently gone, and there is nothing we can do about the house. Although I realize it's a pipe dream and not really realistic. I'm thinking about accumulating money and purchasing it if it ever goes up for sale again, since I don't want to lose that aspect of my youth. My grandparents are devastated and incensed, but they are unable to help. We keep telling Grandpa that he couldn't have known she would do this, but he still curses himself for putting his trust in her. It's just a depressing situation, and we all feel powerless. Update 2. Dan departed from Mom once more. It may sound harsh, but I adore every aspect of it. Jasmine and I have not replied to her apparent attempts to contact us using new numbers and other means. She made an effort to include Aunt Janice. Last week, she called and asked me to speak with Mom. I told her everything and told her not to get involved. She was appalled as she was unaware that we were to inherit the house. She blocked her after apologizing for attempting to support Mom. The only information I received from Mom came from Auntie Janice, who informed me that Dan had abandoned her. Mom has nowhere to go and is now homeless. At first, Auntie Janice and her husband were open to taking her home, but they firmly objected after learning what Mom had done to us. Mom sent me an email yesterday. She essentially stated that she had nowhere to go, was homeless, and was down and out. She requested permission to live with me while she sought employment. She won't seek work, and if I take her in, she won't ever leave, so I know it's a lie. I feel awful about letting her live on the streets, but I also don't want her here, which is why I haven't replied yet. There just isn't anyone who would be willing to assist her. Even though I know she is solely to blame and that she caused this, I still feel bad for her. I know she will wreck my life if I give in, so I'm hoping I don't. Update 3. Jasmine said she received something similar after I told her about Mom's email. She acknowledged that she was secretly tempted to assist her but had not replied either. Since we both know Mom's personality, Jasmine informed me she would back my choice but that I give it careful thought. She will take over and ruin any tranquility I may have if I allow her inside. Thankfully, after a lengthy conversation, Jasmine made sense to me. In the end, I answered Mom. I sent her a lengthy email informing her that I would never, ever assist her. I vented all of my feelings, including disdain, hatred, wrath, and betrayal. I don't know if she has replied because I flagged her email as spam. I sent her the contact information for a few women's shelters that might be able to assist her, but that's all I'll do. She no longer deserves our assistance because she has been financially and emotionally irresponsible throughout our lives. I have requested Auntie Janice to keep me out of her affairs because I have no idea what she will do. I don't require her life updates. She was the worst part of my childhood and is no longer my mother. I'm prepared to let her go. I fell in love with a married man while engaged to my fiancé of 6 years. Now I regret it and am trying to reconnect with my fiancé. We have been together 6 years now, and during the 3rd year of our relationship I cheated on him with a close family friend. I had started taking him for granted and it became easy to cheat because I didn't value the relationship. He broke up with me and we were split for months, and the times I was single I realized he is a great BF. I begged for him back and he took me back, but I had to promise to never speak to the guy again. I'm happy to say I never cheated since then and haven't been tempted at all. I understand how great of a partner I have. That being said, the guy I cheated on was a close family friend and recently I rekindled our friendship behind his back. Nothing romantic. Have you ever met someone who is a terrible partner but a great friend? That's him. I hated the fact that I let a stupid mishap ruin our friendship. My fiancé found out and was angry. I apologized and we talked and he needed space. He sent me a text of his demands to continue the relationship and I copied and pasted it. His text. After doing some thinking, I can't trust you. Whether it was platonic or not, this is the second time that I know of where I have violated my trust. The hardest part isn't this, but now I have to wonder how many times have you violated my trust or done something behind my back that I just don't know about. You claim this is it, but how can I believe you? I love you and want to work on this relationship, but it's going to require a lot from you. We are postponing our wedding indefinitely. When we first got back together, it took 10 months before I felt secure in the relationship again. I have no idea how long it will take to feel secure again. Eli, I changed the name, will be blocked on everything and you're to never speak to him again. This now includes family events. If you know he will be there, do not attend. If you didn't know and he attends, you are to ignore him. I have unrestricted access to phones, social media, emails, etc. Every password I want to know for any device you have. No hanging out with male friends alone. You are to be home by 1 if you do go out with your homegirls. There will be more, but these are my demands and they aren't up for discussion. If you aren't willing to do it, then the relationship is over. Take your time to think about it. End of text. I called him, but he said he's not arguing with me about it and won't call him back until I decide what I want to do. I feel that this is extremely harsh considering the fact I didn't cheat this time. Ever since we got back together, I never cheated on him. OP believes that the punishment is too far. I think I was wrong. But I feel that the punishment doesn't fit the crime. I made a horrible mistake years ago. Being friends with someone doesn't equal sign cheating. Even though I was wrong for going behind his back. OP is convinced to follow her BF's rules. Okay, I'll do it. I just needed to make sure he wasn't going too far, but if this is what it takes to rebuild his trust. When commenters say that OP is on her way to cheat on her BF again, she claims, "You don't think I'll follow his rules? Good thing I don't let people tell me what I can't do. I'm going to be laughing when we work through this, get married and have kids." Update 1. We had a really great conversation and he was vulnerable and said it made him feel like I didn't value him. He was crying and it really hurt me to see the pain I caused him. He told me that please let's not go forward with this unless I can promise that I won't go behind his back again because he can't go through this pain again. I told him that I promise I will never hurt him again and will always be honest and upfront with him now. We talked about the rules and he said they will be temporary and will be adjusted when we go to couples therapy. Now it's time to put in the work to repair the relationship. I know it will be a lot of work, but I'm prepared. Update 2. So next month I'll get married this fall. I was with an amazing guy and we worked through a lot of issues together. I thought I loved him and I think I still do, but not in love with him. About 3 months ago at my job, we got a new coworker who is very handsome and extremely attractive. I mean, I have never been so physically attracted to someone in my life. We started to deepen our friendship, but romantic feelings came. I repressed mine, but to my surprise he confessed his feelings to me as well. I told him we gotta think about our spouses, but our feelings continue to grow. He told me he stopped being affectionate with his wife because he feels like he is cheating on me when he does that. He only wants to be affectionate with me. I've started doing the same thing and haven't been intimate with my partner. The big thing is a lot of people will be hurt when this comes out. He can't divorce his wife right away because of finances, but he will as soon as possible. I have to call off the wedding, but I really don't want to hurt my current fiancé. When asked about her previous infidelity, OP says, "I have cheated before and I'm starting to realize it's because I didn't understand being in love. With the guy I'm seeing, we both aren't romantic with our current partners. I don't want to be with anyone but him. Also, he's going to divorce his wife. We have a plan for when his finances get straight. How is she justifying this affair? This is completely different. The first time I cheated was because I was selfish. This time it was because I fell in love with someone else. I didn't choose this. No one picks who they love. This whole experience has taught me how complex love is and that I've never been in love before. This is so hard on OP. That's not fair. I didn't want any of this to happen. It breaks my heart that I'm going to have to call off the wedding, but he's a great guy and I'm certain he will find someone else. I wish I loved him or didn't fall in love with someone else. Because life is more complicated than that. I don't want to hurt him and have been thinking, oh, the best way to tell him. You guys act like this doesn't hurt for me too. You guys are not being understanding or empathetic. When commenters tell OP she's gullible about the married guy, she keeps emphasizing, I'm going to tell my fiancé. But we can't tell the other guy's wife yet. He's trying to get his finances in order first. Update 3. I took everyone's advice and decided to end things with my fiancé. This was the hardest thing I had to do in my life. I know you guys think I'm a terrible person, but this is an unimaginable situation to find yourself in. I want everyone to know how much this hurts. I really wish I didn't fall in love with someone else. I wish I could make myself fall in love with my fiancé, but I can't. It took me so long to accept this. I hope you guys can understand that I can't convey this enough, that I care about my ex-fiancé. I know this will be best for both of us, even though it's hard right now. When asked if OOP told her ex-fiancé the truth, she says, I didn't lie. I told him the truth, that I fell in love with someone else. I told him I still care about him. I keep telling you all that I care about him and would never use him as backup. He's a great guy and there's a woman out there who will love him and be lucky to have him. There's no reason we both can't be happy. When commenters tell OOP that there is no way the married man is going to leave his wife for her, she says, he is going to divorce his wife. Unfortunately, divorce is extremely complicated, but he said he will keep me updated. It's not just finances but a lot of other legal stuff. Since I wasn't married yet, it was easy to end things. For him it's a lot more complicated than that. When commenters continue to call OOP gullible, she says, no, I was very clear in our conversation today that I want this figured out by the end of the year. That's plenty of time for him to figure out finances and legal stuff. That way by 2025 we can just focus on each other. Update 4. I realize I treated my fiancé horrible and received my karma. My coworker and his wife are getting a divorce because she found out he was cheating with multiple women. Plural, he's a disgusting animal. He lied to me and others pretending that we were the only ones. I ended things with him. I'm glad he's been exposed. Now, regarding my ex-fiancé, I've taken the time to reflect and realize he's actually my true love. I hate that I hurt him. I reached out again to him, but he said he will always love me, but he's done with me. That was painful to hear. I just can't get over what my coworker did in destroying multiple relationships, including mine. It's painful to see and experience. Edit. I wasn't clear, but I take responsibility for my actions. Just because I'm condemning his disgusting and manipulative behavior doesn't mean I'm justifying my actions. My actions were horrible, but I've learned from them. My stepbrother bullied me for years. I recorded him and got him expelled. Now my family wants me to say the video was fake to save his future. For the past year, my stepbrother Jonathan, 17M, has been tormenting me at school, and yesterday it just blew up. Because of how messed up this issue is, let me give you some history before I tell you what happened. 3 years ago, at her company's annual dinner, my mom met Jonathan's father, Harris, 45M. Mom had been parenting me alone since my dad died in a vehicle accident when I was 5 years old. Before she met Harris, she had a few dates but nothing committed. He seemed to genuinely care about her and was pleasant and successful. Before getting married, they dated for around a year. About 6 months into their relationship, Harris organized a dinner where I first met Jonathan. At first, Jonathan appeared to be fine, quiet but courteous. After supper, we even played video games together, and I recall thinking that maybe having a sibling wouldn't be that horrible. Being an only child has always left me feeling lonely at times, to be honest. After the wedding and when we all moved in together, everything was different. The initial weeks were uncomfortable but doable. Then, when our parents weren't present, Jonathan began to say these insignificant things. He would remark things like that I was probably in dire need of a father figure, or that his dad was essentially my mom's meal ticket, which is untrue. My mom is a wealthy marketing executive. My grandma gave me a number of photo albums, and I have wonderful recollections of my dad. I initially tried to ignore it, assuming he was simply getting used to the new circumstances. However, the remarks continued to deteriorate. He would ridicule me for keeping my dad's photos in my room, telling me that I should move on since his dad was now my father. He would tell me that I was fortunate that they even allowed me to live in their house because, in reality, Harris had purchased it. They really sold both of their previous homes to buy it jointly. Mom would respond that I was being overly sensitive and that Jonathan was only attempting to get used to having a new family member when I tried to bring this up to her. Jonathan's transfer to my school at the start of this school year was the beginning of the real horror. Our parents believed that having us attend the same school would promote brotherly bonding. Jonathan plays football, has a large circle of friends, and essentially controls the social scene, making him the quintessential popular kid. I have a tiny circle of pals who share my hobbies, and I'm more interested in academics and computer programming. At school, Jonathan began spreading all these tales about me. He told people that I'm jealous of him because he has a real father, that I frantically attempt to win his dad's approval, I really avoid Harris out of respect for my dad's memories, and that I cry myself to sleep wishing for my dead dad. I don't. Because they had heard about my emotional issues, even strangers would approach me and ask if I needed an embrace. It got so awful. Physically, it began modestly. In the corridors, he would run into me and say it was an accident. With a phony voice that made his pals laugh, he would knock down my books and say sorry. However, things worsened. In the cafeteria, he once accidentally poured his energy drink all over my laptop. All of my programming efforts were stored on that laptop, and although I was able to preserve the hard drive, the laptop itself was destroyed. Jonathan said it was just an accident and offered to let me use his old laptop when I told Mom and Harris. They told me I was exaggerating the situation because they thought he was right. Even Mom's sister, Aunt Sarah, who was formerly quite close to me and always supported me, began to advise me to make a greater effort to connect with Jonathan. He's just being a typical teenage boy, and you're too sensitive, just like your father was, she would add. My dad was always my hero, so having her point the finger at me in that final remark was incredibly hurtful. Things dramatically worsened around a month ago. After gym class, Jonathan and his pals cornered me in the boys' locker room. They were pushing me around, removing my glasses, and making fun of the fact that I couldn't even fight back like a real man, all without actually striking me. I decided I had had enough at that point. When Jonathan was around, I began surreptitiously recording everything on my phone. I was desperate, even though I realized it might not be the correct thing to do. When I told them what was going on, they didn't believe me. I got just what I needed 2 weeks ago. Tommy, a freshman, was being harassed by Jonathan and his pals. Tommy is quite bashful and little for his age. He was trying to jump and catch his bag as they threw it over his head in a game of keep away. They referred to him by derogatory terms, saying things like, "What's wrong, short stack? Unable to get there?" I took notes on everything. Jonathan went too far though. Jonathan became enraged and gave Tommy a strong shove when he eventually succeeded in grabbing his luggage. Tommy's nose got bloody after he collapsed and struck his face against a locker. I went directly to the principal with the video. Despite their generally lax enforcement of our school's zero-tolerance policy for bullying, they were unable to ignore it when there was video proof of actual physical attack. By the end of the day, Jonathan was formally discharged from school when they phoned Harris to come get him. Everything blew up when we got home that afternoon. Jonathan sobbed to his father about how his life had been ruined, how he would never be able to attend a reputable university, and how this would ruin his chances of receiving a football scholarship. Harris was enraged with me, shouting that I had betrayed family, and that I was only envious of Jonathan's accomplishments. The worst part though? My mother sided with them. In fact, she advised me to visit them first rather than the principal first. She claimed that by going behind their backs, I had betrayed my family and that in order to get Jonathan back into school, I had to admit to the principal that I had altered the tape or something. Mom began to cry when I refused and tried to tell them about all the bullying I had experienced, claiming that I was ending her marriage and that I should put family first. Then, 4 months before I turned 18, Harris threatened to throw me out. I contacted my grandma, Dad's mother, because I could take it no more. I've been staying with her ever since she came to get me that evening. My mother is constantly texting and calling, switching between threatening to ruin my future and guilt-tripping me over destroying our family. While some of my students are accusing me of being a snitch, others who have also been harassed by Jonathan are expressing gratitude to me. I know what I did was right, therefore I don't regret anything, but now everything is in such disarray. The worst thing is that my mother, who has always encouraged me to confront bullies, is now telling me that I should have remained silent. Update 1. I want to start by expressing my gratitude to everyone who left a remark on my previous post. All of the encouragement has been so overwhelming that I needed some time to take it all in before updating. A lot has transpired during the last 2 weeks, and they have been intense. My mom unexpectedly showed up at my grandmother's place the day after I posted. Despite her displeasure, my grandmother allowed her entry. Mom appeared awful, as if she hadn't had any sleep in days. When she first saw me, she broke down in tears and said she wanted to make amends because she had failed me as a mother. I felt sorry for her for a second. She then mentioned Jonathan. She said that although she could understand why I did what I did, I had to realize that Jonathan's entire future was on the line. It seems that 3 other schools in our district attempted to enroll him after he was dismissed from our school, but all of them turned him away due to the bullying event. I only showed the principal the video, but it somehow got out there, and suddenly Jonathan was being called a violent bully. Jonathan was reportedly despondent, seldom eating, and always talking about how his life was over, according to Mom. She informed me that he might now be turned down by colleges after losing his shot at a football scholarship. She repeatedly reached for my hand during our conversation, but I resisted. She was still attempting to make me feel bad about defending myself, and I couldn't believe it. After sitting silently in her armchair through all of this, my grandma eventually said something. She revealed to me something I was unaware of. My dad had experienced terrible bullying during his high school years. He seemed to be quite similar to me at my age, quiet, interested in school, and a simple target for bullies. When the bullies pushed him down a flight of stairs one day, it got so terrible that he ended up in the hospital with a fractured arm. He was altered by that experience. After that, according to my grandma, he was resolved to never allow bullies to get away with harming people. He always taught me to advocate for others and myself because of this. She claimed that he would have been pleased with the actions I took to safeguard Tommy, the freshman, as well as myself. My mother dropped the true bombshell as I was still processing this new information about my dad. She sobbed as she disclosed that Harris had threatened to file for divorce if she didn't accept responsibility for the video's editing and write a statement claiming that I had fabricated everything to get Jonathan back into school. She pleaded with me to help her keep her marriage together, stating that she couldn't endure another broken relationship. My own mother was pleading with me to lie and accept responsibility for everything in order to keep her husband from abandoning her, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My grandmother must have noticed my surprise because she told my mom to go right away. She claimed that a mother didn't deserve to be called a mother at all if she asked her child to take responsibility for their own mistreatment. My grandma handed me a collection of letters my dad had written to me before he passed away after Mom left. She believed I needed them immediately, even though they were meant to be presented to me when I turned 18. He expressed his desire for me to always stand up for what's right, even when everyone else was against me, in one of them, which was written just 1 week prior to his accident. He wrote that being brave is about doing the right thing in the face of fear, not about never being afraid. In the meantime, education has become more difficult. Through the use of photoshopped images of me with derogatory captions and the dissemination of false information that I'm mentally ill and made things up for attention, Jonathan's friends have been harassing me online. However, an unforeseen event occurred. The freshman Jonathan had harassed, Tommy, shared his own experience. Tommy informed the principal of further instances in which he had been harassed by Jonathan. Then other children began to come forward, like dominoes falling. Some even have recordings of themselves. One female had recorded being harassed about her weight by Jonathan and his friends for weeks. Screenshots of Jonathan harassing him and threatening to tell everyone were in the possession of another man. Yesterday, I was called into the school counselor's office. A big folder containing complaints about Jonathan from the previous year that had been misplaced or disregarded was presented to me by her. She asked whether I would be willing to assist in establishing an anti-bullying committee at the school and expressed regret for not acting sooner. She claimed that by confronting Jonathan, I had inspired other kids to speak up as well. I'm a cunning kid who set Jonathan up because I was envious of him, Harris has been telling everyone who will listen. He is being believed by a number of family members, including my Aunt Sarah. She gave me a lengthy lecture over the phone yesterday, expressing her disappointment that I had ruined a young man's future over teenage drama. I should have handled it within the family instead of embarrassing everyone by going to the principal, she remarked, echoing Mom's statement. I continue to reside at my grandmother's home. Since I'll be 18 in 4 months anyhow, she's actually assisting me with researching legal emancipation. I have a strong case, especially considering the circumstances, according to the attorney we spoke with. I constantly get these lengthy, tearful letters from my mom saying that I'm tearing the family apart, and that I'll regret it when I'm older. I no longer reply to them. It's unbelievable to me that she would put her marriage before her own son. I'm attempting to concentrate on my studies and maintain my marks at the moment. Despite everything, my grandmother has been incredible. She even made me a little study space in her guest room, just as I had at home. Reading my dad's letters is helpful on days that are more difficult than others. It is as though he anticipated my need for his counsel years later. I'm just trying to get through each day right now, but I'll update again if something important occurs. Once again, I want to thank everyone for their support. Knowing that I'm not alone in advocating for myself is a huge comfort. Update 2. Things have taken a surprising turn, and I'm still figuring out what happened. Karen, Jonathan's birth mother, sent me a Facebook message last week, which surprised me. She claimed that one of Harris's relatives had told her about what had occurred and that she wanted to meet with him to discuss it. I was somewhat apprehensive at first. I was unsure of her motivation because Harris had consistently portrayed her as an unstable individual who had deserted Jonathan. However, my grandma consented to accompany me, so last Saturday we met Karen at a coffee shop close to her home. Everything I believed to be true about the scenario was totally altered by what she told us. It turns out that Jonathan had previously engaged in severe bullying. Prior to my mom and Harris's marriage, he had received 3 suspensions from his former school for harassing other pupils. The most recent instance was very awful. As a prank, he and his friends had trapped a child in the gym storage room for several hours. Following that episode, Karen had attempted to get Jonathan into therapy. In order to address Jonathan's violent conduct, she showed us past emails she had exchanged with Jonathan's school counselor, who strongly suggested a psychological assessment and treatment. Harris, however, had objected, claiming that Karen was attempting to portray their kid as weak and damaged. When she gave us the records from their custody dispute, it was the true stunner. Harris had obtained full custody because he had superior counsel and persuaded the court that Karen was trying to create problems where there weren't any by insisting on therapy, not because he was the better parent. Not only did he transfer Jonathan to my school because of the marriage, but his previous school had threatened to expel him if he committed another infraction. As she was telling us all of this, Karen started crying. She claimed that although she had made an effort to remain involved in Jonathan's life, Harris had threatened to take legal action against her if she attempted to get in touch with his school or intervene. She kept apologizing to me for not speaking up sooner, claiming that she was too scared of Harris to take any action. Harris had done this previously, which explains a lot of why he was so fast to threaten divorce if I didn't accept responsibility. Instead of genuinely assisting Jonathan in resolving his problems, he is more concerned with maintaining his reputation. He has been repeating this cycle for years. Last night, I presented my mother with all of this material. Karen had provided us with copies of everything, including the court records, emails, and school reports, but I wasn't sure if she would believe it. I saw genuine understanding appear on Mom's face for the first time since this whole thing began when she read it all. At last, she broke down and acknowledged that she had been seeing Jonathan's conduct even prior to the school event, but she had been too scared of losing Harris to recognize it. She told me how some parents had stopped allowing their children to attend study groups at our house, how she had heard Jonathan being mean to other children when he believed no adults were around, and how she had noticed my withdrawal and anxiety but had told herself it was just teenage stuff. Mom moved out of Harris's house today. Yes, the same Aunt Sarah who chastised me is the one she's staying with. After seeing the proof, she has entirely altered her mind. Mom says she can't stay with someone who would protect a bully at the expense of other children, even if that child is his, and she has already filed for divorce, but not because of Harris's ultimatum. In order to get the custody agreement examined, Karen is collaborating with her attorneys. She has already discussed Jonathan's background and needs with counselors at a school in her state and wants to get him into the therapy he ought to have received years ago. Harris is enraged that all of this has come to light. The most unexpected aspect? Our principal has been contacted by Jonathan's former school. It appears that they are looking into the handling of Jonathan's bullying accusations and the reasons behind the loss or disregard of reports of his actions. Although it hasn't been confirmed yet, there are hints that Harris may have been involved. All of this is still registering in my mind. It's somewhat comforting to know that I wasn't insane and that Jonathan had a lengthy past that I was unaware of. However, it's disheartening to consider that perhaps none of this would have occurred if Jonathan had received assistance years prior, when Karen first became aware of the issues. My mother is always complaining that she should have done a better job of protecting me. Even if there is still too much hurt between us, at least she now realizes how horrible what she wanted me to do was. In order to understand why she was so willing to overlook the warning flags, she is discussing seeking therapy for herself. I'll give you another update if anything significant occurs, but for now, I'm just trying to concentrate on having a successful end to the school year. According to my grandma, I should be proud of myself for not only confronting Jonathan but also for being the one to end the years-long cycle of silence that had been shielding him. Update 3. 3 months have passed since my previous report, and things have finally begun to return to normal. I thought I should give you all a final update because a lot has changed. About a month ago, once my mom acquired her own house, I moved back in with her. Despite being smaller than our previous home, the flat nevertheless feels more like home. She continues to apologize nearly daily, and even though I've forgiven her, our relationship has changed. We both seem cautious now, as if we're worried about saying the wrong thing. Surprisingly, I chose to start family counseling 2 weeks ago. The counselor is assisting us in improving our communication and re-establishing mutual trust. There were some unsettling findings from the examination at Jonathan's previous school. It appears that Harris had been contributing regularly to the school's athletic department, which could account for the disappearance of numerous complaints regarding Jonathan. A thorough investigation is underway by the school board, and a number of administrators have been placed on leave. Last month, Jonathan relocated to his mother's state and is now enrolled in a new school that focuses on behaviorally challenged adolescents. I've heard that he's doing better now that Karen has him in rigorous therapy. He apologized for everything in a lengthy Facebook message that I received. He wrote about how therapy is helping him deal with his anger management difficulties and how he's finally realizing why he acted the way he did. I haven't replied yet. Perhaps I will, but right now I'm not prepared. The school's anti-bullying committee has flourished. The school administration is now taking bullying concerns much more seriously after we assisted a number of students in coming forward with their stories. Actually, I sit on the committee with Tommy, the freshman whom Jonathan harassed. He has grown to be the kind of brother I had thought Jonathan would be, like a little brother to me. The remaining letters from my dad were given to me by my grandma, and reading them has been both devastating and therapeutic. In one of them, he expresses his desire that I will become a person who defends others, and it seems as though he is still mentoring me despite the passage of time. Last week, my mom's divorce was finalized. Harris attempted to argue against it, but he immediately changed his mind once mom's attorney presented the information regarding Jonathan's history and Harris's role in concealing it. Mom is also receiving therapy to help her understand why she was so ready to overlook Jonathan's bullying warning signs. She claims that she lost sight of what was truly important, being a good mother, because she was so terrified of being alone once more when Dad passed away. The most surprising thing happened last week. I received a letter from Karen. She expressed her gratitude to me for being the first to reveal Jonathan's situation. She claimed that after years of feeling bad about not being able to support her son, she has found peace in witnessing him finally receive the assistance he requires. As a thank you, she also wrote me a check for my education fund, which I was able to return with the assistance of my grandma. Accepting it didn't seem right. Next month, I will graduate and move to another state for college. My dad left some money for my schooling, and my grandmother is assisting me with the money now that I've been accepted into a reputable computer science program. To have a new beginning ahead of me feels nice. Although fewer people now believe Harris, he continually disparages me to everyone who will listen. I've received apologies from some family members who initially supported him, such as Aunt Sarah, who now gives me cookies every weekend and never stops telling me how proud my dad would be. I've learned a lot about sticking up for what's right, even when it's difficult, from this entire process. I've discovered that you should continue to protect yourself even if the individuals who are supposed to do so fail you. I'm grateful for everyone who supported me, especially my grandma, who taught me what true family support looks like. I'm no longer furious. My love for my husband has been gradually dying since he forced me to choose between an open marriage and divorce. My husband, Leo, 34, and I, 30, have been together for 7 years, married for 4 of them. We don't have any kids and we don't intend to. 2 years ago, Leo asked me for an open marriage. I was devastated at the time. I couldn't understand why he didn't just want me. I couldn't even comprehend the idea of sharing him either. He gave me the same song and dance a lot of men give their spouses, swore up and down that he loved me. I just wasn't fulfilling his needs. He needed more than what I could give. It was just to spice up our life, it was just sex, etc. I did ask if there was someone else. He said no. To this day, I'm still not sure if I believed him. But at the time, I was angry and hurt and said no. He pestered me to change my mind for a week before giving me an ultimatum. Open marriage or divorce? I chose an open marriage. I just couldn't bear the thought of him leaving me at the time. We have rules. We can't bring any partners home. We have to get tested for STD every 3 months. 1 weekend out of the month must be left free for us time. Any money we spend on with our partners must come from our personal accounts. I didn't partake in the open marriage myself for the first 3 months. Leo obviously did right away. He seemed to be gone or out late almost all the time, but he always acted so happy and loving towards me while I felt like I was dying inside. It killed me to think he was sleeping with other women, and I felt so lonely and unattractive and not good enough. I told my sister, Katie, 26F, and a few close friends everything. Katie told me to just play his game and be part of the open marriage too. If he can sleep around, so could I. I honestly didn't have much confidence in myself at the time. I'm a bit overweight and I've never considered myself conventionally pretty. I was afraid this would just humiliate me further. Katie and my best friend Jessie, 30F, set up my online dating profiles for me. I got so many matches that it was overwhelming. When I told Leo, he was surprised, but told me to do whatever I thought was best. Jessie helped me choose my first date, and I actually had a great time. He didn't pressure me for sex and took me out to drinks and dinner. We did have sex eventually, but it was all just casual and we didn't see each other after a couple months of casual dating. That first guy really made me feel more confident in myself. So I kept going on dates with men. A lot of them wanted to treat me, so I didn't have to spend much of my own money. Not only that, but some of the men have given me the best sex I've ever had in my life. Almost like the kind of sex you read in romance novels. It's been amazing. I am currently seeing 2 different men, alongside Leo. One, Mark, 38M, is more of a steady boyfriend I've been with for about 6 months, and the one, Steven, 25M, is very casual. Mostly just hanging out and sex. They know about my open marriage, other relationships, and are fine with it. My husband has not been so lucky. In the beginning, he definitely was. He was always out and about and didn't seem to care even when I started dating too. But now he just complains a lot and hasn't been going out much. He whines about how he's usually the one spending money. A lot of the women he tries to be with want an emotional connection before sex. He often wants to be with younger women, but they want younger men. He's also been upset that I go out with random guys so often while he's at home alone all the time. He hasn't asked to close the marriage yet, but I feel like he will soon. He keeps saying he misses us and wants to spend more time together. He tried to initiate sex a lot more too. He wants to go on dates and go on vacations and all that stuff more and more, and he gets upset when I tell him I can't because I've already scheduled to do stuff with my partners, mostly Mark. Honestly, I don't think I love Leo anymore. I care about him, but I just don't love him. I'm not saying I love Mark or Steven, but I honestly feel closer to Mark nowadays than I do Leo. Mark makes me feel comfortable and safe, and I love spending time with him more than my own husband. Steven is funny and sweet and really good at sex. Katie and Jesse have been wanting me to divorce for a year now, but I was afraid of hurting him and thought I still loved him. But I think my love for him died when he asked for this open marriage in the first place. Seeing him get all pissy about it now just because he's not benefiting from it is also a turnoff for me too. But I don't know if divorce is the best option. I still care about him and I still don't want to hurt him. Maybe if he finally asks to close the marriage, we can talk about it then. Relevant comments. Comment 1, divorce. You're happier without him. He would only want to close the marriage because he can't get laid, not that he only loves you. OP. We've just been together for so long that the idea of him not being there feels weird. Which sounds stupid since I have 2 other partners, so it's not like I'll be lonely. But Leo was a part of my life for so long that for him to not be there just doesn't feel right. But you're probably right. OP on her husband dismissing her feelings regarding the open marriage. OP, I really do think Leo does love me, in his own way. Even when he was more active in the open marriage, he still made time for me and still did a lot with him. For me. But you're probably right on the divorce. Comment 2, part of the issue is the main relationship is supposed to be the important one, so the whole 1 weekend a month for us time wasn't enough. OP, I actually did argue that in the beginning, but he insisted that he needed to keep his weekends free. He did spend a lot of time at home during the weekdays, so in his mind, that made up for it. Comment 3. What if he finds evidence of your open marriage and frames you as a cheater and then brings you to the cleaners? At this point, I wouldn't trust Leo. What you're experiencing is normalcy. You're used to his presence in your life. But how long are you going to live like this? OP. Jesse had the same train of thought of you and actually took screenshots of his dating profiles during the beginning of the open marriage. She also told me to save screenshots of any texts we had about the open marriage. I don't think Leo would do that, but I also didn't think he'd ever ask for an open marriage, so what do I know? Update 1. Hi everyone. I got so many comments and messages on my last post, which got deleted for some reason, that I was a bit overwhelmed. Especially when a lot of you kept saying the same thing, divorce, divorce, divorce. But the thing is, I think a part of me still loves my husband. I know in my last post that I didn't think I loved him anymore, but I can't just forget about the things that I do love. I love when he sings in the shower. I love when he laughs so hard he snorts. I love when he kisses my forehead when I've had a bad day. I love when he holds my hand when he watch TV together. Leo has done a lot of shitty things, but he really isn't the big asshole people think. Maybe that was my fault. But even if I do still love him, I'm not in love with him anymore. I don't think I have been for a while. I care about him, a part of me does still love him, but you all were right. I should have just divorced him when he gave me that ultimatum in the first place. This past Saturday, we had the big talk. I initiated it, but he didn't seem too surprised. I just told him that I noticed he didn't seem to like me going out with Mark or Steven and asked if there was a problem. He said there was. But he didn't ask me to close the marriage. He just asked me if I still loved him. I said something like, not like I used to. He broke down crying, which made me cry. I guess he had known for a while that I wasn't in love anymore, but he had hoped he could win me back if he funneled all of his energy into me. I was honest and told him that during those first 3 months of our open marriage, I think my love for him died and I just couldn't get it back. I did tell him that I still cared about him and that I did love him, but it's not the same as it was. He asked if I loved Mark or Steven, and I said no. I like being with them and I care about them a lot, but I can't say I'm in love with either of them. I also finally asked him why he wanted the open marriage in the first place. A lot of you in the comments said he already had someone lined up, and you were right. He had someone at work he was interested in and she wanted him too. The open marriage was just to get permission. He honestly never expected me to also get my own partners because of how unconfident I was, but he didn't want to stop me either because he thought nothing would come of it. He didn't really like me seeing other men, but he knew it wouldn't have been fair to tell me no when I gave him permission first. I guess Mark and Steven made him insecure because I was spending so much time with them on a regular basis. The open marriage was just sex on the side for him. He only did hookups and they never lasted long. He genuinely always just loved me. But he thought I was falling in love with my partners and he was losing me and wanted to win me back. We cried a lot and talked a lot. We've decided to get a divorce. Since the house is in his name, I'm going to move out and live with Katie for a while. He told me I didn't have to and I could stay until the divorce was finalized, but I just can't. It's too hard to even look at him sometimes. I don't know how I feel, to be honest. I thought I would be relieved or sad, but I'm just tired. I wish I could have been like you all wanted me to be, clapping back or being sarcastic and snarky or rubbing it in his face, but I don't feel like I've won anything. I just feel lost. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I'm wondering if maybe the other woman ended it so now he was back to what he was comfortable with, his wife. He went and had his fun and when that died out, he was not left with a wife waiting for him at home. OP, he and his coworker were only sleeping together for maybe a month. She fulfilled his kinks that I never liked indulging in. That's why he was with most of his partners, because I wasn't interested in his kinks. Comment 2. He stepped out of this marriage first and tried to have his cake and eat it too. The thing with open marriages is that you can never count on how emotions will change. Sex is a very intimate action and many people will develop emotional connections. Those connections come at a price. He placed a bet and he lost. At least he's man enough to acknowledge it and own up to it. There is no easy answer. OP, I wish you healing OP. Thank you. Leo just thought the open marriage would be a way for him to get all of his kinks he couldn't do with me, because I wasn't into it. He knew how unconfident I was, which wasn't because of him. A lot of people seem to think that he eroded my self-esteem but he didn't. We can thank my mother for that, but that's a whole other can of worms, so he never expected me to partake in the open marriage either. Comment 3. So he never expected me to partake in the open marriage either. So basically while he asked for a mutually open marriage he expected it to be only his side open and then got hurt that reality didn't meet his expectations. OP, Leo admitted that he did only expect his side to be open. He was never going to stop me from opening my side, but like I said, he didn't think I would. TBH, I don't think I would have either if it wasn't for Jesse and Katie pushing me and making profiles for me. My stepdaughter passed away 4 weeks ago and I caught my husband and his ex-wife together in our bed. My stepdaughter Becca, 14, died 4 weeks ago. I've been in her life since she was 7 years old. We were extremely close. My husband Derek, 40, his ex-wife Sam, 38, and I, 35, get along very well. There has never been an issue in the 7 years that I've been with Derek. Sam has always been kind to me. She didn't even care that Becca called me mom too. Right after Becca's passing, Sam had so much anxiety and depression that she was unable to be by herself. She has no family besides us, so we invited her to stay with us. Sam hardly leaves the house. She mostly just sleeps in Becca's room, which is completely understandable. I always tell her that I'm here if she needs me and that I want her to take her time grieving and that there is no pressure to go back to her home. Today I needed to run some errands, so I asked Sam if she'd like to join me to get out of the house a little bit, but she declined and said she'd rather just stay at the house and sleep. I told Derek that I was leaving and that I would be back in 2-ish hours. He works from home. I also told him to check on Sam every once in a while, and maybe try getting her to eat something. After stopping at the post office, I realized I forgot my library book that I needed to return, so I went back home to get it. As soon as I walked in the door, I heard moaning coming from mine and Derek's bedroom. I immediately knew what was happening. And my heart completely broke at that moment. I wasn't completely sure what to do, but I ended up deciding to confront them, so I walked to the bedroom and opened the door and began yelling at them both. Sam started having an anxiety attack and ran to the bathroom while Derek kept apologizing profusely. I asked him what the hell was happening, He told me that he made himself and Sam some lunch and they began talking about Becca, and shared some memories. And then Sam ended up kissing him and he didn't pull back, and then it ended with them in our bed. They're begging me to understand that it was just grief that caused them to become intimate and that they both made a mistake. I don't know what to do. I love this man. And I love Sam. I'm heartbroken that they did this to me and put me in this position. I feel so stuck. Relevant comments. Comment 1. That would be hard for me. I understand grieving, but how is this excusing cheating? What happens next time he is sad? Edit. I misspoke when I said sad. Obviously this is something beyond devastating. I still don't think it can be used as an excuse. OP. I don't want to excuse his cheating. I think I want to divorce him, but I'm anxious about doing it right after we lost Becca. Comment 2. Probably together. Do you both own the home? If it's in your name, change the locks. Stay strong and don't listen to his excuses. I am so sorry this happened to you during such a difficult time. OP. Exactly what I was thinking if I'm being honest. And yes, we both own it. When I told him to leave, he kept saying sorry and then said that he would leave and respect me wanting him gone for a while. Comment 3. Are you seeing a therapist perhaps? You're dealing with a lot right now, it might be useful. OP. Yes, I am in therapy. I've been with my therapist for other things for the last 3 years. She's been very helpful. I saw her yesterday and was able to figure some things out. Update 1. I decided that I'm filing for a divorce. I can't ever trust Derek again. It sucks because we had an amazing relationship, I thought. He's always been great, so this was a complete shock to me. Last night, Derek came over to talk. He confessed a lot. Turns out it wasn't their first time having sex like most people thought. They've been having sex since 3 months before Becca died. I am completely shocked and heartbroken. Sam also reached out last night and thanked me for everything I've done for her, and told me she was sorry. I didn't respond, I blocked her. I did so much for Sam and considered her a friend, so this hurts a lot, more than I can handle. This is all too much. As hard as this is gonna be, I need to leave Derek and cut them both out of my life. I am ready to do so. I am done. Also, some people are saying I deserve this because I should have known better than to let Sam into our home, around Derek. But, you need to understand that I'm a giving person. I trust people more than I should. I truly thought Sam was an amazing person. I know it's unusual to become friends with your husband's ex-wife, but it's just how it went for us and I shouldn't be blamed for what happened. Thank you to everyone who commented nice things and for the kind messages. You've all been helpful during this insanely difficult time. I appreciate it. Relevant comments. Comment, out of curiosity, what are his excuses for cheating? Those two are going to be in a world of hurt once the guilt settles in. They're going to be asking themselves why it had to be Becca and will eventually come to the conclusion that it's their punishment for what they've done to you. I can pretty much guarantee you that. OP, he told me that they just accidentally reconnected one night when I was away at my mom's. He was stressed we weren't conceiving and were having miscarriages, so he vented to Sam, and then somehow that led to sex. It seems so icky to me. How can he vent about our struggles like that and then go and have sex with Sam? It's just awful of him. I don't understand it. Editor's note. Remove the first half of the updates as it was a rehash of update #1, updates 2. I'm getting lots of questions about some things, so I figured I'd answer a few of them. Have I told anyone about what happened besides my mom? Yes, I told a few friends and some family members. Most of them are supportive of my decision and aren't speaking to Derek. Where is Derek staying? Currently, he's staying at a hotel. Our friends refuse to let him stay with them. He's lost a lot of people due to his awful decisions. Has he tried fighting me on getting a divorce? Yes, he begged me not to file for divorce, but when I told him I needed him to just let me go and that I was too exhausted to fight him on this, he let it be and agreed to getting a divorce. Why isn't Derek staying with Sam? He told me he didn't want to continue to hurt me, so he told Sam he was done with her for good. And that they have no reason to speak to each other anymore. I have no idea if that'll last and if they'll just end up together, but I truly don't care what they do anymore. I just want peace. What was Derek's excuse for cheating? He told me that they just accidentally reconnected one night when I was away at my mom's. He was stressed we weren't conceiving and were having miscarriages, so he vented to Sam, and then somehow that led to sex. Disgusting of them both, I know. Feel free to ask anything else, and I'll try to answer. Thank you everyone for your support and advice. Relevant comments. OP on what happened to Becca. OP. It was very sudden. She died in a car accident when she was with one of her friends and her friend's parents. OP on her husband's parents being supportive or not, and if they know about his cheating. I get along with Derek's mom very well, but he's also a mama's boy, so it's kinda complicated. She will always be there for him. He'd stay with her if she didn't live across the country. She knows what he did and told me she had a talk with him, but said that he's still her son and she'd help him with anything if he needed it. I'm thinking I need to cut her out of my life too, which makes me really sad because we were close and talked on the phone almost daily. OP on if she has children with her husband. OP, we've had 6 miscarriages total. All of them were in the first trimester. More updates. I just found out that he is staying with Sam and not at the hotel. He told me it's too expensive to stay at a hotel and Sam is the only one that'll help him right now. I had a feeling this would happen. Just knowing that they are still probably sleeping together hurts my heart. I talked to a lawyer this morning and we are proceeding with the divorce and Derek agreed to it. It's actually happening. And I feel some relief that he's not fighting me on this. My mom leaves on Sunday. I'm scared to be alone. But I go back to work on Monday, so I'm hoping it'll be a good distraction. I'll keep updating if anything else happens. Thank you everyone, I am so grateful for you all. Relevant comments. Comment 1, OP, how did you find out he was staying at his ex-wife's place? Anything he says should be taken with a grain of salt. He's not true to his words in going on contact with Sam. OP, he texted me this morning after we talked to lawyers, and said he just wants to be honest with me. I told him to stop giving me updates on what he's doing in his life and that it's not something I need to know. It seems like he wanted to tell me to hurt me. OP on how she is doing. OP, thank you, I'm doing a little better today. My mom and I went on some nature walks and went out into the garden this afternoon, that helped. Becca loved gardening with me, so it made me feel closer to her. I decided to go through some of Becca's stuff today. I just found her diary in a box in the back of her closet. Would it be wrong to read some of it? I feel like it would help me feel closer to her, but part of me feels like it's wrong too. I haven't told Derek that I found it either, and I'm unsure if I should tell him. What would you do? Relevant comments. OP on if she was closer with Becca prior to her sudden passing. OP, Becca and I were very close. It felt like she told me anything and everything, but I honestly think all parents feel that way about their kids, so I'm kinda nervous to read it. Just a little update. I figured it's been a few days, so I should give a little update. My mom is leaving in a couple hours, so I'll be alone. I'm kinda nervous about it. She helped me stay distracted and kept me going. IDK how I'm gonna handle her being gone. I go back to work tomorrow, the first day back since Becca passed away. I'm looking forward to it though because it'll keep me distracted. Also, I did read some of Becca's diary. It made me love her even more, she was such a sweetheart. I went back a few months and saw that she noticed some weird behavior between Derek and Sam, didn't mention that she knew of the affair, but she just wrote that she thought it was kinda strange that they all 3 would hang out more than usual, without me. I might read more, but so far I haven't found anything that's disturbing, just her being a teenager and talking about crushes, fights with friends, happy family memories, etc. Tomorrow I'm also talking to my lawyer, so I might have more updates on that. Thanks for the continuous love and support everyone. Last update for a while. Started randomly getting a lot more messages, comments, so I figured I'd do another little last update. My first week back at work went great. I wasn't expecting it to go so well, but thankfully it did. My coworkers were so helpful and patient with me. On Friday night I decided I didn't want to stay home all weekend alone, so I decided to drive up to my mom's. It helps that I have a 3-day weekend so I can spend more time with her. I'm heading back home tomorrow. Also, for those of you that have messaged me hateful things for reading Becca's diary, I just have to say, you aren't in my shoes right now. Telling me I'm a bad mom because I'm reading her diary is just ridiculous. I learned so much more about her, about how caring and sweet she is, and it made me love her even more. It's how I'm able to feel so close to her right now, so please don't tell me I'm a bad parent for just trying to get by one of the hardest times of my life. You have no idea what it's like. I don't have much of an update, so this will be it. I'll come back and update once the divorce happens though. Thank you to those of you that have been nothing but kind and helpful. You helped me feel less alone. I'll forever be grateful. Sam saw my Reddit post and is threatening to sue me. Sam made a fake FB profile to message me and tell me she wants to sue me for telling strangers about what happened. Derek supports her apparently. I don't need this. Am I not allowed to vent about my life to people online? I just want life to get better. I'm so tired. Fuck you, Sam. Fuck you, Derek. Edit. Sam is in the comments and messaged me on here too. Blocked her. Additional information from OPOP on the message from Sam OP. No, I just ignored her. It might be an empty threat just to make my life harder, but I'm unsure. Her message said, so I was scrolling through TikTok and ended up on an account where they read Reddit posts, and guess whose post they read? Yours. First you tell friends and family, and then you go to a bunch of strangers and tell them our life story. I can't believe you. It isn't just your business to tell. Becca would be so disappointed in you. Be prepared, cause I think I'm gonna be suing you for this. This was no one else's business. You did this to yourself, remember that. I'm actually baffled. She thinks Becca would be disappointed in me. My girlfriend asked for an open, poly relationship. I said no, and now she's acting strange. What should I do? My girlfriend, 28, and I, 26, have been in a relationship for 3 years and a few months now, but not long ago she started sliding in hints before telling me that she wants to try an open or poly relationship. She asked about this before at the start of our relationship, and I thought that I made it clear that I was monogamous and not interested in that. Now she's asking again and saying how we could both even share a girlfriend, or we could be open and hook up with whomever. I told her no and asked her why she was pushing this again. She said that it could be a way to spice up our sex life, and I said something like, okay, well, I'm not into that, you know that. So no go. She got agitated and said to just try it, which pissed me off, and again said no. This conversation happened a little over 2 weeks ago, and she still seems to be pissed off about it, not really talking to me and sleeping in the guest room. I've tried to get her to talk to me about it, but she just brushes me off and says that it's not important anymore. I've been venting to friends about it, and a few of my friends brought up that maybe she's already cheated or is cheating and is trying to cover it up, or maybe she has someone in mind that she wants to bang. I doubted it at first, but now I wonder because she has been a little more distant and just overall off, even before the whole open relationship talk. We haven't been having sex as often as we used to, but I chalk that up to it being because of my hectic work schedule. I'm not sure what to do. I'm afraid that if I start digging that I won't like what I find. Edit. I'm going to either snoop on her phone or confront her about it. I love her, but I also don't want to be played with. If she's hiding something, I will find out. From the comments. Comment 1. If you're afraid to dig because you don't like what you'll find, well, that's understandable. I would be too, but it's no good way to live. OP replies, true. I've been debating if I could sneak her phone really quick. Comment 2. She's either already having sex with someone else or has someone she wants to. Did you know she was bi before you started dating? OP replies, I'm bi and she's lesbian, or as much as I know. She said that she dated a boy in middle and high school but started dating girls in late high school, if my memory serves me right. Update, it's super late but I'm numb, sobering up and just can't fucking sleep. This fucking sucks, but I need to get this off my chest and out my head. So a few days ago I posted about how my GF of 3 years asked me for an open relationship or to try a poly relationship. I actually got to sit her down to talk the next day after posting about it and asked her why she brought it up again. She asked in the past, in the beginning of our relationship, after dating for so long. She repeated that she just wanted to spice up our love life, and I asked her, how would that spice things up though? The only one who's gonna find it sexy is you, because you know that I'm not into that. She said something about how I should be open-minded about it because so many people wish they had a partner like her that would be okay with them screwing other people. I said yeah, if they were into that then I'd get that. After a little more back and forth and talking in circles, I just said, listen, if you want to screw someone else then just say that. However, we'll be over. I love you, but if you want this then you should go be with someone that would give you what you want, cause I can't. I thought that she'd be a little remorseful or apologize or anything but what she told me. I assume she thought that I just broke up with her because she just got pissed and screamed out, oh so we're over? Fine. I've been screwing her guy friend. Anyways, and I'm pregnant. Yeah, my lesbian GF is fucking pregnant by a fucking friend of ours. My hands are shaking just thinking about this again. I tried to hold it together but I just couldn't, and I tried to kick her out but she wouldn't leave, so I left for a friend's place and have been here over the weekend. My now ex kept calling me but I only answered and told her to get her shit together and move out and go live with the douchebag, who I deleted and blocked because I would lose my shit on him at that time, then turned off my phone. I turned my phone back on this morning and my ex left messages. I called her, to get closure if anything, and asked her how long. She said since December when I went out of town. I asked if they fucked in my bed and she said yes. I asked if this was the reason for the open relationship BS and she again said yes. Lastly, I asked if she was planning to keep the baby and still stay with me, and she said yes. I just hung up. I've deleted and blocked her on everything for now because I just need to distance myself right now. I'm gonna see if I can break my lease on the APT we shared because now that I know that they've been fooling around in there, I don't want it anymore. For now though, I'm just chilling at my friend's and will probably be here until I can get out of my lease. I have no more tears left. I can't tell if I'm in shock or emotionally broken. I took some time off work but I don't know how I'll ever get back to normal after this. Thanks for the advice from my previous post. I'ma try to get some sleep now. From the comments, OOP is advised to get tested and change her passwords etc. In addition, the question of how the baby was supposed to fit into a lesbian relationship is brought up several times. Comment 1, geez. She's a terrible person and you did the right thing pushing the issue. And I'm amazed and shocked that she thought you were going to be okay raising someone's baby. I'm so sorry you're going through this. OOP replies. Thing is that I love kids and she knows that. If and a huge if, this was an accidental pregnancy due to us being open I probably would have stayed. It's definitely different in this case obviously. I still can't get over how freaking ridiculous this is. I honestly wish it was a joke. Comment 2a, I mean, what was the plan here? Surprise, I'm pregnant. Like how did she think she was going to explain that one without outing herself as a cheater? Comment 2b, I guess the plan was let's be poly, whoops, got pregnant but you agreed to being poly so you cannot be mad at me. OOP replies, honestly that's the only thing that makes sense to me. It was a dumb idea but I guess it would have worked in her head. Comment 3. You might want to get a lawyer and research how child support works in your circumstance. The last thing you want to do is pay for this child. OOP replies. Yeah, I'm safe unless I magically started making sperm and grew a member. This actually made me laugh a little because she kinda tried to make me a baby daddy. Laugh to keep from crying as they say new update. OP updates on her profile the 16th of August 2022, 1 month later. So first things first, thank you all for your support and advice. I really appreciate it. The good news that night I posted my last update, I definitely wasn't in a good headspace, but I allowed myself to grieve for a few days then got right to work. I went and got tested and I'm clean, no HIV or STDs, thank God. I went to my landlord and I told her the situation as well as had a formal letter typed up just in case. She's always been a nice lady and was kind enough to offer me a cheaper apartment that I could move into easily if I wanted to but I decided to just move out of this complex. So I'll need to pay this month's rent, my ex won't pay her half so. Then my part of the lease will be officially broken. I don't know, or care to know, if my ex will break or take over the lease but that's on her. I've already got a place lined up and will be rooming with another close friend of mine. Bad news, it was about a day after I posted my last update that my ex just showed up to the friend's house that I was staying at. I don't know how she found out but we do have a pocket full of friends so it's not that hard. I was under the influence and numb and didn't want to see her but she kept pushing it and refused to leave. At first I came out and told her that we should talk outside, then I closed the door behind her. She still refused to leave so I stepped outside to talk to her, or she talked and I just stared at her. She started with apologizing and trying to put the blame on me being busy all the time which yeah I was working a lot but every free time I had was spent with her. Then she said we weren't having enough sex, then saying that the sex meant nothing with the guy and then somehow it took a turn to her saying that now we could start a family without a paid donor. I just remember going off on her and calling her out for screwing the guy repeatedly and then trying to cover it up with some bullshit. She started crying and yelling back but I told her to just go back to a baby daddy and tried to go back inside but she pulled on my shirt trying to stop me and I sorta pulled away hard to get away. About a day after that, my friend told me that she posted about how she left me for being abusive and that it drove her into the arms of the father of her baby, along with pics of them together apparently. The douchebag even tried to back her up on that bullshit but almost every mutual friend of ours knew what really happened by then and they absolutely blasted her until she took the post down. Goodbye and good fucking riddance to both of them. I only feel bad that the baby will have such immature parents. Other than that, I'll probably take some time to get away after settling down in my new place. I'm not gonna hold on to that pain anymore. I did love her with all my heart and thought she was my forever, but she betrayed me in a way that I could never imagine. She knew about my past relationship and promised to never hurt me the way my ex did. I guess she didn't lie about that since that ex never cheated on me, lied and manipulated, sure. I'm taking a break from love right now. Maybe I'll get a pet to start my healing journey from here. Am I the A for ruining my best friend's wedding and losing our friendship because I wore a gold dress to the ceremony? I will link the dress. I put gold in quotation marks because I think it's more bronze orange but maybe I'm splitting hairs and AMTA. Some context. My 30F best friend Dan, 30M got married to Lauren, 27F yesterday. Dan and I have been best friends since high school, and despite always being platonic with no romantic interests on either side, his now wife Lauren has always disliked me. In their 3 years of dating, I have not been allowed to see Dan alone because she feels that it's suspicious that I want to hang out with him. Honestly, I just missed my friend. Despite me being happily married, she's always kept me at arm's length. I always figured this was because she's from a very conservative family. Dan has spoken to her multiple times, and after she'll back off for a bit before reverting to complaining about him being friends with a girl again. It's not ideal, but she makes Dan happy, so I made my peace with it. That brings us to the wedding. Originally I was going to be in the groom's party, but Lauren ended up crying, saying a wedding is not a place to swap gender roles. Dan was fighting her on this, but I told him I'll just attend as a guest, and not to choose this hill to die on. The dress code was warm tone garden party, and we were encouraged to wear earthy warm colors. I picked out a bronze/orange dress that I thought fit this perfectly, and the style even matched some examples they gave. In short, I thought I had nailed it. The wedding went great, however at the reception Lauren dragged me aside and said, "I cannot believe you would wear gold to my wedding. You're not the first prize, you're just *** king trashy." I was so shocked the moment I just stared at her. She practically screamed at me to leave, and she was drawing attention, so I grabbed my husband, said goodbye to Dan and left. Dan reached out after and told me he was upset I left his wedding so soon. Lauren's mom has texted me saying I ruined the wedding for her daughter and I'm stupid for wearing a gold dress. She's saying it's as bad as wearing white. I was genuinely not aware this was a thing. I want to reach out to Dan to explain, but I don't know if I'm in the wrong here. AITA, relevant comments. Any chance you or Dan have a crush on each other? I am happily married, and Dan and I would rather eat glass than have anything romantic happen between us. We are just not each other's type and see each other as siblings. I genuinely don't think Dan has ever secretly liked me either. Commenter, downvoted. While I believe you, I have to think Dan has made comments about you around his wife for her to go so nuclear on you. Not to be weird, but how would you rate your attractiveness compared with hers? Are you similar, or is there a big gap in your attractiveness? OP, that's hard to answer. We are two totally different people. I think we are both attractive in our own way. I am your Barbie stereotype, 5'11", blonde hair with a six-pack. She's a petite brunette bombshell with a beautiful tan and a full figure. I'm also a good 2 inches taller than Dan, hence he's not my type, I'm not his. So it's comparing apples and oranges. But I do get your point. Commenter, have you and Dan ever had a convo about why you aren't allowed to be alone with him? OP, not just me but any woman. She doesn't believe in platonic friendships with the opposite sex. Why does Lauren's mom have your number? Can't you just forward that message to Dan? My guess is the group chat from the hens party. Lauren didn't have bridesmaids and her mom organized the hens night with a group text chat. Honestly, my husband told me they were acting crazy. I just needed an outside opinion before I called Dan, so hubby said I should post here. How were you going to be a part of the groom's party if she didn't have any bridesmaids? She technically had her mom as a MOH figure, I guess. She stood up there with her and organized the hens party. But they were just going to go with unequal numbers, and in the end, he just had his brother there with him. Update. Wow guys, I genuinely didn't know what to expect posting to strangers on this, but I am so thankful to my husband for suggesting this. I needed a non-biased view on this wearing gold to a wedding issue, and now it's clear that that was never the issue. Many of you asked if the dress I wore stood out, and honestly I know I'm biased saying this, but I genuinely don't think so. Another girl was wearing the exact same dress but in a dark red, which we had a laugh about. Slip dresses are a pretty common wedding guest dress where I am, and it was the type of dress that was recommended by the bride. I think many of you were right in saying that it was never about the dress, but how I looked wearing it. I do want to start this update by thanking my husband who suggested I post here and having a ball reading your comments since posting, and even posting a photo of us this morning with a caption along the lines of "my gold prize of a wife, I am winning in life thanks to you." Turns out Dan found out pretty quickly what actually happened and called me last night. Apparently Lauren's mom had told him I was really drunk and told Lauren her dress wasn't it, so I was requested to leave. Dan had his suspicions that it was bullsh*t, but it wasn't until his mom called him that confirmed it. Turns out she was nearby when Lauren pulled me aside and ironically was actually wearing a yellow gold dress and tore him a new one about letting Lauren treat me like that. Dan didn't have a solution when he called. I could tell he was emotionally exhausted and pretty defeated. He said he wished I had taken it out on the open bar rather than leaving, but he understood why I left. He thanked me for taking the high road and that it hasn't gone unnoticed. He apologized for what happened. Apparently this is an ongoing fight between him and Lauren. For all of those who said Lauren just hates me, it turns out it's 100% true. Apparently, she has been trying to convince Dan to cut me off because that's what a good husband does. He said he thought she had gotten over it now that they were married. I told him that he needs to focus on his happiness and that I will always be here to support him and that I will take a step back if that's what he needs. They were supposed to leave for their honeymoon yesterday. But when Dan called they were still at home, so who knows? I've blocked Lauren and her mum and forwarded the messages to Dan as recommended. Thanks again everyone for your comments and judgment. New update. So, it's been a couple of months and a bit has happened. The situation seemed to resonate with quite a few people, so I thought I would provide a final update. Thank you to everyone who has messaged, it did help me feel a little less crazy during this time. And to the person who let me know I can simply post an update here, thank you, I had no idea how this all worked. So, Lauren ended up finding the post on TikTok and was understandably pissed. She called me from Dan's phone and started screaming at me, saying I had ruined her wedding and that I knew what I was doing wearing a dress like that to the wedding. After the initial shock of expecting Dan and getting Lauren screaming, I yelled, "What kind of dress? The same cut that Amy wore? Someone else has worn the same dress but in a different color. F***ck I just can't win with you? Dress nicely and I'm out to get you, dress casually and I'm taking the P***ss. I've tried so hard with you but I'm done." And hung up. I messaged Dan, "I clearly can't be in your life with everything the way it is right now. Good luck, I'll always be a call away." Before blocking the number, which broke my heart. That was 3 months ago and I didn't hear anything except from Dan's mother saying Lauren wouldn't stop complaining about me, and life continued. In this time I also discovered I'm pregnant. Me and hubby made a post a couple of weeks ago announcing this, which is on its way to Dan, turned up at my front door a few days after. We talked over many drinks on his end and mocktails on mine. He told me that he always thought it was the right thing to do to listen to your partner's boundaries and insecurities, and that Lauren has a lot of body image issues which resulted in her being suspicious of other women, so he thought the right thing was to support her, but he got lost in setting his own boundaries when it came to how she controlled his interactions with his friends. He said the whole situation forced him to think about her boundaries and her own personal standards, and saw that they consistently contradict each other. Like, she believes, rightly so, that women are allowed to wear whatever they feel comfortable in, but she would complain that I was unreasonable for wearing bikinis to family beach days because it was inappropriate. Dan also realized she was trying to cut out his sister, and literally every woman in his life, including his boss, insisting he get another job. By the time he had heard about my pregnancy, he told me he didn't want to be an absent friend through this and so had a serious conversation with Lauren. I won't go into details, but the result was that they are currently separated and both in therapy. Dan asked Lauren to move out and she is currently staying with her mom, who is apparently convinced I'm the devil. Whilst I am sad for Dan's relationship having to end like this, I am happy to see that he is starting to learn what a healthy relationship is and that he will be able to be my friend through my pregnancy. My husband is excited to have his gaming buddy back. I reached out to Lauren with Dan's permission, letting her know I'm here to talk in a therapy session if she felt like it would help, but I haven't received a response yet, and maybe that's for the best. I can't help but feel bad on some days, because I know that a lot of this is born from insecurity. But I'm trying to focus on the positives that both of them are in therapy, and hopefully we'll move on to bigger and better things. I'm sorry if this update is a bit scattered as well. Pregnancy brain has been hitting me hard. This update has been read and approved by Dan. OP's comment: "Thank you, we are very excited. And while I can't talk to Lauren's motivations, I do agree that whatever issues you are going through are not an excuse to push unfair boundaries. I am in awe of Dan's strength that he has shown in the last couple of weeks. If they continue their relationship, I know it will be on better terms for both of them. I had to protect my husband's niece from a pit bull attack while he ran off. I've been ignoring him since then. Should I forgive him for this? I'm going to start with this. I'm still a bit traumatized. I will be finding someone to talk to, and a friend made this account for me because I am not a frequent user. I don't know if the pit bull made it. I haven't asked. My husband, his niece, nephew and I were in our backyard. I assume our gate was open. I can't remember. The pit bull came out of nowhere and latched onto his niece, 5F. My niece screamed. I turned and kicked it with all the force I could manage. I was lucky enough to hit it in the jaw somewhere that made its jaw dislodge. My husband, who had been a few feet away, shouted something like, "Whose dog is this?" I told him to get our bear spray from the house. I was in a panic. I am an animal lover, but it was so insane. The pit bull seemed almost rabid. In hindsight, I don't think it was. It wasn't foaming at the mouth, it was just crazed. My husband ran, but not towards the house. He literally ran out the fence gate and shut it behind him, not towards his niece or nephew, who was also present, in an outdoor bassinet that I managed to toss onto the picnic table to make sure it was out of the dog's reach. While holding his niece over my shoulder, I put her on the BBQ to keep her out of reach. The dog was literally jumping and snapping, and I was worried that if I tried to carry her, I'm short, it would manage to grab her out of my hands. It chased me when I ran for the shovel, but then I swung at it. And I swung until it stopped. I don't think I will ever forget the sound or feeling. It was so high stress I didn't even realize that it had bitten me twice. I haven't spoken to him for a full week, even though we live in the same house. I didn't ask where he went. He only came back a few minutes later to pack us into the car and drive us to the hospital. He's getting angry that I'm giving him the silent treatment, but I feel like it's his fault that I had to possibly end that animal. If he had gotten the bear spray, I literally keep it in my purse in case I'm ever attacked by an animal or otherwise, then I don't think I would have needed to do what I did. It was literally just inside the door. He knows where I keep it. Instead, he took off to God knows where. Me and 2 children, that I'm not even related to, could have died. It might not even be relevant, but I don't even like kids. I am staunchly child-free, and he is the one who offered us up to babysit for the weekend. I don't know, is this grounds for divorce? I'm not sure I can even look at him. Any attraction I had to him is pretty much gone. He tried to touch me yesterday. Just to move me so he could pass, and I smacked his hand away without even thinking about it like he was some stranger at a bar because it was literally jarring. He's just been skulking around, trying to talk to me, then getting frustrated, then skulking more. I wasn't expecting him to be macho and fistfight the freaking dog, but at least follow instructions. At least not leave me in a life and death situation with a toddler and an infant. Should I be able to chalk this up to in the moment panic? I don't even know if I want to hear him out. Relevant comments. Commenter. If it makes you feel better, that dog would have been considered dangerous and put down either way. You defended yourself and the children from an unprovoked attack. You were so courageous and saved the kids' lives. Be proud of yourself. OP, I know that consciously, I think, but thank you for saying that because I just feel so terrible. Commenter, downvoted. He absolutely might. Do it again. Would you feel differently if he told you that he was bitten by a dog when he was small? And he just couldn't stop himself from running away? I'm not trying to excuse him. People have flaws, and you have to decide if you can tolerate them or not. OP. No, I wouldn't really. Seeing as I was attacked pretty badly by a dog when I was young, around 10, 11, I still have scars on my thigh. I still like dogs, and I would like to think I reacted appropriately in the situation. Those kids could have died. I could barely stomach explaining his niece's injuries to his sister. I was bawling, apologizing that I didn't do more. I can't imagine if something worse had happened. To a longer comment, we used to camp. I had trusted that he would be able to react appropriately. Also, he doesn't have any childhood incidents regarding animals that I know of. I actually do. I was attacked by a German Shepherd pretty badly, but I still like dogs. Commenter, downvoted. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Everyone reacts differently to treat stress. In the middle of a crisis, some people panic and cannot follow instructions or even hear instructions. They're just in flight or freezing. These reactions aren't really something we can control. I mean, you don't even like kids, and your instinct was to protect and fight. I'd talk to him about it. OP. I'm trying to. I keep telling myself to try and then I see him and I remember him freaking running. I don't know if I want to be with someone whose reaction is flight at all. Even if it comes naturally. One more thought from OP. If his niece and nephew had died, I just don't think anyone would give a damn about his instincts. That's the thing, because they could have. Why should he have to protect you? Would you protect him? I expect us to protect each other, I guess is what I mean. I didn't expect him to take one for the team. I expected him to have my back. Update. My friend said that people update often, but I don't know how to attach it to the other post. I thought I'd update since a few things have happened. Sorry if this is needlessly long. I didn't expect this to get so many comments and kindnesses. I want to say I'm so sorry to everyone who has experienced anything similar because, my God, it has not been easy. For everyone worried about my mental health, I got an appointment through an app with my work yesterday because I decided I really needed it and labeled it high priority. However, it felt like just a preliminary meeting. She said she wanted to get me feeling a bit more comfortable because I was visibly tensing up whenever I started talking about it, and she even noticed it through the video chat. Last night, I also told my husband I needed space. I apologize that I don't have more of an update on our relationship than that. I wasn't as nice as I wanted to be. He argued and didn't want to leave. It's my house. But I told him I just didn't want to look at him, that I couldn't look at him. He cried, And I hate that I felt apathetic towards it. I haven't slept well, so I'm not sure if I'm just overtired and still so shaken. I was also emotionally exhausted after the appointment, so that might have added to it. I got a few questions about his sister and her husband, so I thought I'd answer. They aren't speaking with him. I don't know when it happened. I was definitely out of it at the hospital while I was getting the stitches and everything, but I do think after I was done blubbering and trying to explain how something so terrible happened to their little girl under our watch, they apparently asked him where he was. I still haven't talked to him about where he went, so I don't know. However, it clearly didn't satisfy them. His niece just got out of the hospital yesterday, so that really triggered everything and a lot happened. I had sent flowers, a bear, and this one toy she'd been asking about. I didn't go to the hospital though. I was scared seeing me would make her nervous. But his sister and her husband sent me flowers too, and it made me bawl again. I'm just a freaking mess, honestly. The father sent me a long message that I haven't been able to get through, but it's the sweetest thing anyone's ever sent me. He also sent me a $1,000 Visa card. I literally thought I was reading the amount wrong. They are good people, and I still feel terrible that I couldn't have done more for her. Everything's just replaying in my head. Anyway, I obviously haven't looked into filing yet, but I am not against the idea of it, and it really did help me feel better about wanting a divorce over this. I know fight or flight can't be helped, but now I think I realize that it's okay not to want to be with someone who would leave you behind. I think I can say I'm a fighter, and I want a fighter with me. Maybe he'd be better off with a runner instead too. Then he at least wouldn't be leaving someone behind. I don't know. It feels like I'm done. But I'm also just a mess, so right now I'm just glad I have space. Thank you to everyone for making me feel like I wasn't being ridiculous. I think it always feels like there should be multiple issues that tear a marriage apart, unless it's infidelity or something, and it's like I know he may not have meant to betray me, but he still did. Whatever his reasoning. Not sure when I'll be speaking to him, but I will try to update then. Relevant comments. Commenter, I'm so sorry you went through such a horrible experience. It sounds like the parents are thankful you protected their children at risk to your own safety. I know I'd never be able to repay you if they were my kids you protected. I'm glad you have gotten the therapy ball rolling. I wish you and your niece a speedy recovery. That little girl is always going to know how you saved her, and I'm sure you'll always be her aunt, regardless of whether you stay in your marriage or not. I'm so proud of you. OP. They're good people. His message was really soothing to read because I still feel guilty about how badly hurt she was from that initial bite. But she's home now, and I'm glad. I don't know how it works with children and therapy because she's so young, but I hope they get her some. Commenter, downvoted. I read the original post and I understand you. The man doesn't have a masculine bone in his body. Doubt he will ever be a protector. You are in a tough spot and hopefully things get better. OP, I don't need him to be a protector, just to have my back. Which I thought he did, but now I don't believe he would do that anymore. OP's support system. I have a decent support system. Though my family isn't close by, they've been messaging and video chatting with me a lot. Hours-long group chats. I think my mom has been trying not to give too much of her opinion on my relationship though. She was more focused on making sure I knew how to clean my wound and finding counseling, etc. She's a former nurse. I love my husband but am no longer physically attracted to him. Not because of his looks, but because he isn't manly enough. I know this is a horrible thing to say, but I have to say it. It's a throwaway account. My husband and I are in our mid-40s, married for over 20 years, and have 3 beautiful children, all in their double digits. I do love my husband, but I don't know if I'm physically attracted to him, not because of his looks but because of how he lives his life. My husband is a good man, treats me very well, and is an amazing father to our children. Physically, he is tall, with broad shoulders, not skinny or athletic, but not obese either. He is a big guy with a big beard, big arms, and big hands. He is built like a linebacker. He can physically intimidate people with just his presence, although he never intentionally does that. He can control a room and has a very masculine job at which he excels. However, the manliness ends there. This is why I may not be attracted to him anymore, if I ever was. He is not handy. It's not that he doesn't try to fix or do things around the house, but he cannot build anything. Anything he does fix never looks or works right. Often we have to hire people to fix or build things for us. He doesn't drink. He will go out once in a while and have a couple of beers, but he doesn't drink at home. My husband isn't into any manly stuff. He doesn't hunt, fish, or do anything with automobiles, and is not big into sports. He has taken the kids fishing and shooting, just so they have the experience, but he does it just for them. He really doesn't have any hobbies. I begged him to take one up, so he started building Lego sets. He's in his 40s. He loves going to movies, likes cooking, I never have to cook when he is home, and he does a lot of the house cleaning. I will give him this. He doesn't play video games or board games, unless it's family time, or do anime or any of that. He is not controlling in bed. Sex is okay, but I want him to take charge. I won't say anything about this to him. I wouldn't know where to start. I do love him. It's not that I want him to be a drunk or macho aggressive jerk, but sometimes I just want a man to take charge and fix things and be a man. This is bad, I know. I feel bad saying it, just needed to say it. Update 1, hello. I wanted to add a little update to my original post. I don't know how to link it to this one, so you'll have to go into my history. I received a lot of hate for my thoughts and feelings. I realized when I wrote them and read comments about them that they come off as mean and cruel. I have no right to feel this way. The problem is that I do feel this way. I don't know how to change it. I thought about it for a few days and finally needed to take action because it was weighing on me so bad. I received some messages from people telling me to have a conversation with my husband. I decided to. I thought for quite a while about what I would say, how I would say it, and tried to think of questions or statements he would have that I thought about responses to. Last night we had a talk. Kids were at work and at friends' houses. We were sitting outside enjoying the fresh evening air. I brought it up. In short, nothing went as expected and I am as confused about my marriage as I ever was. I began by telling him that I love him. I love that he is a great father and person. However, there were some feelings I could not shake and there were some changes from him that I needed. I talked about his hobbies, changing it up a bit. Working in our bedroom, what I wanted out of it. I explained in the most sensitive way that I could about how I feel about his personality and overall measure as a man. I did not use those exact words. I was more gentle. However, in order to move forward with our marriage, I felt I needed to be honest. I did tell him that I wanted honesty from him as well and wanted him to tell me what I could do to be a better wife. I know I cannot ask him to change without having some changes myself. I never expected his reaction. He literally just stared at me. Said nothing. His reaction was emotionless. No anger, sadness, acceptance, nothing. Just stared. I said everything I wanted to say. I was looking for a response. I got none. After sitting in silence for a while, waiting for some reaction or words, I just yelled at him to say something. At least tell me what I need to work on. The only thing he said to me last night was, I knew who you were when I married you, I am not going to ask you to change anything. That's it. We sat in silence for at least an hour after that. Our oldest then came home from work, and he went to talk to him for a while. Not about our conversation, but how work went and stuff. My husband did not sleep in bed last night. He slept on the basement couch. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to feel. I do feel better about telling him how I felt, but not as great as I thought. I really do not know how to feel. Maybe that's a sign my marriage is over? I can't feel anything about it. I should be happy I said it, sad he won't talk to me, angry for no response, but I have nothing. I guess I'll give it some time for both of us to process. Update 2. I apologize again, I still do not know how to post my previous updates or the original post. Please look at my history. My last update I laid out what happened while talking to my husband. He spent that night and last night on the couch downstairs sleeping. We haven't talked about our conversation. He has talked to me, but not about that, and the talks we have are short. We have had our kids around all weekend, so I never have gotten the opportunity to sit down with him, and with him sleeping downstairs, I figured to just give him some space. I don't know how to proceed. I have talked with a coworker about this, just to get advice since I needed someone in my life to talk to. He advised me to give it a bit of time to let my husband talk to me. But if there's no change offered by him, then it may be time to tell him that we need to separate. I don't want to do that, but it may come to that. I want him to see where I'm coming from and I want him to tell me what I can do to change. That is where we are at. No real big update, but I will give him until the end of the week. If he doesn't initiate anything, I will. Edit. Okay. I had to edit this post because there have been some comments about my coworker. I had these feelings about my husband before I talked with my coworker. We are not having an affair, we are not doing anything inappropriate. He is giving me some guidance because he is a man and I figured he could help. Nothing more than that. Also, please stop calling me names because I have these feelings and am trying to navigate them with my husband. I cannot help my feelings any more than you can help yours. Think about that. Think about an off feeling you had and wish you didn't have. It's happened to everyone, including you. So please stop. Update 3. This is not so much an update but a repeat of the edit on my previous update. I am not having an affair with my coworker. I went to him after I was having these feelings about my husband. For advice only. There is no emotional or physical affair going on. I go to him for advice, he gives it and I either take it or I don't. He is not pushing me to do anything, it's just his advice. I literally have no other friends or family in this area, or I would have gone to them. Also, these are my feelings about my husband. I have tried very hard not to feel this way, but I can't stop. I don't know how many of the angels and pure people on this app are able to control their feelings so well, but you obviously are better than I am. None of you have ever had feelings you couldn't shake or feel bad about. If you say you have, you are a liar. I posted my feelings because I am genuinely confused, scared and don't know what to do. I feel that you guys just bash but provide no answers. There have been some of you that have been beautiful and helpful, sending me DMs, and I thank you for that. The rest of you in the comments, think before you post. If you don't want to provide sound advice, please just move on. Final update. Okay, I'm done. Not so much an update, but I have been getting so much hate for simply looking for advice. Comments, DMs, all have been just blasting me. I am not going to post on this anymore. What happens between my husband and I will remain between us. This was the stupidest decision posting on here and then continuing to post on here. I am not cheating on my husband. It's a coworker. We have talked a few times about it. We only texted a couple of times. We don't talk about feelings for one another. Just someone I asked for a little guidance from, and he was nice enough to give it. Yes, my husband is a good man. No, I am not a piece of crap for having the feelings I do. I stand by talking to him about my feelings, because that is what people do in a marriage. If my marriage is over because he cannot accept what I have to say or change the small things I want him to change, then so be it. But I am done posting. Thank you to the people of Reddit for absolutely nothing. I found out that my mother and my fiancé had been having sex for the past few years, leading up to the birth of my younger brother. My fiancé, 25, and myself, 24, have been together since we were 17-18 years old. Honestly, he was always kind, handsome, funny, and everyone used to say I was so lucky to have the whole package. I felt so lucky too. He always treated me with love and respect, so this makes everything just so shocking for me. I have always had a good relationship with my mom. It has always been her and I against the world. My dad died in an accident when I was little. We always joke that we are the real-life Rory and Lorelai from Gilmore Girls. My mom dated guys on and off and they were usually cool but nothing really past the early stages. Around 4 years ago my mom told me she was pregnant, which was a huge surprise. My mom was around 42 years old and although she was sort of dating someone recently, didn't meet the guy but knew she went on dates, it still was a big shock. She never thought she could be pregnant at her age. She had me when she was super young, an oopsie, and I can tell she was stressed and worried. I decided to support her, since she has always supported me and tried to reassure her. She then had my brother who is now 3 years old. I have a close relationship with my brother. I have helped take care of him since he was born and I just love the little guy. My fiancé was also always helpful with my brother. We would take him out for ice cream, playground, pool time during summer, etc. But nothing was weird. He was just my then BF spending time with my brother and I. Now to how I found out. My fiancé and I have been living together since we finished college. He was not at home because he was hanging out with friends, but I stayed home because I didn't feel like going out and just wanted to relax on the sofa. At some point during binge watching a series on Netflix, my laptop died, and I was too lazy to get my charger, so I used my fiancé's iPad instead. I know the password but had never used it before. The iPad logged in, and I received a bunch of message notifications. I guess he hasn't used it in a while either. Anyway, this got my attention, and I went to check it out, and of course, I found everything. My mom's number wasn't saved under her name, but I recognized it and verified it with my phone. She was telling him she felt guilty and that I should know. He said he also felt guilty but couldn't lose me and that they messed it up. She said it was unfair for my brother to never know his dad and asked if he could live having his son around, not behaving like a dad but as a brother-in-law. I broke down. What the actual F? There weren't a lot of older messages, just some photos stored of my brother as a newborn, my mom pregnant, and more photos of my brother growing up in an album. I couldn't anymore. I cried for what seemed like ages and I waited for my BF to come back home. I wish I was one of those women that can pretend and get things together before confronting the cheater, but I can't. He came back later that night, around 23:30, and I just gave him the iPad with the conversation opened and saw his face completely go pale. I asked for an explanation. When? How? Why? And he didn't want to at first, but knew he had to. Apparently a few years back while I was traveling with some friends, girls trip, my fiancé and mom had dinner together. This isn't strange since he has been part of the family for so long. Sometimes mom and fiancé would eat together at our place even if I was busy with sports or out. I did the same with his parents. Somehow, unclear how since he couldn't explain it well, one thing led to another and they ended up sleeping together. They felt guilty but apparently not guilty enough. BC they slept together 2-3 more times, using the excuse of meeting up to discuss how to tell me. Apparently when my mom got pregnant they stopped sleeping together and decided to not tell me, since my fiancé loved me and couldn't lose me, and my mom didn't want to lose her daughter. So here we are now, with two of the most disgusting humans. I obviously broke the engagement, told my mom to never talk to me again and move in with a friend. I feel bad for my brother since I really love him, but I can't be around him now, I just can't. I feel like it would remind me of all those times we talked about having kids. I would be his baby mama, only baby mama. We talked about this future since we were 17 years old, so I want to puke every time I think how I was actually taking care of his child with someone else, while still having those dreams. I want to puke. Editor's note. Comments were mostly supportive, with a few telling their own stories of cutting parents off and a couple with tales of spouses sleeping with parents. How is this even a thing? People are crazy. Update 1, to the update. As I was afraid, I was indeed confronted near my office this week. I knew this was coming but thought maybe I had more time. My ex was the person to come find me. Yesterday, Wednesday, after finishing work and walking to where my car was parked, my ex was sort of lingering, waiting around. I thought about running. Not gonna lie, but I guess in the moment I felt strong enough to get over it, instead of having that hanging above my head waiting to be approached again. He asked if we could talk and I said yes, but I didn't feel like having that conversation over coffee like we were old friends. It felt ridiculous, so I told him to just talk right there. We were in the streets but somehow it wasn't crowded, but also not completely lonely. Felt right. He basically said sorry 100 times and that I deserved better. I agreed. He said he did love me and that he still does, but he would understand why I wouldn't want anything to do with him. He said that if I did in fact consider giving him a chance that he would go to therapy, alone or together or both, and that he would work hard to win my trust back. I told him it wasn't possible. There was too much damage. This sounds calm when I type it, but in the moment things came out more with louder tone and harsher words. Anyways, he did say that he is in the or will be, it was a bit of a blur, process of getting custody, partly, from my brother, and that he in fact does want to be a dad to him. He said he does not want to be together with my mom, that it was just a stupid mistake. Sure, BC 4-5 times is just a random thing. He couldn't explain why he did it in the first place. I think he doesn't even know himself. I asked if he cheated with someone else before. He said no, not sure if to believe it, but he sounded honest. I asked why he didn't come clean, and he said that after he did the deed he always felt panicked and it hit him that he could lose me and he just didn't want to. I told him it was meant to be found out, that what was his plan? To have my brother around and ignore their relationship forever? He said he didn't think far enough and that he was basically going with the idea one day at the time. I asked him if he felt that my mom seduced him. He said it was mutual, which made me want to puke again. I asked if he has had any contact with my mom since I found out. He said yes, but mostly about my brother, didn't elaborate more, and I didn't press for more info on that. He said he told his parents the day before, or the day before that, not sure, Tuesday, about everything. The parents were not happy, but they are glad to start building a relationship with my brother, their grandkid. Honestly, all of this felt like a punch in my stomach. I don't know why. The parents wanted to contact me, but he told them to wait till he approached me first, hence why he was here. I said if he started or thought about the custody before I found out, and he said no, but when I found out was like the push he needed. Great. Seems I helped him get his shit together. And this past week he was arranging all of that mess. That's why he hasn't tried to see me before. He sounded and looked defeated, but the whole thing made me, besides sad, angry. I was mainly depressed before, but now I'm furious. I feel like he is still in an okay place and he isn't paying for his actions, beyond me leaving him. He will have my brother, his parents and others and move on with his life. While I lost everything. I hate him. We parted ways not on a happy note. And I told him to never get near me again. I was done. He asked me to see my brother still, that I was important to him and tried to guilt trip me and it worked, but I still think I can't. I don't know much about my mom and really hope she doesn't come find me anytime soon because I'm fuming right now and won't be able to handle it. I will be contacting my family and friends and finally doing the blasting today. I think it is about time, and after my talk with him, I got the extra push I needed. Editor's note. Top comment suggested moving to Australia. Can't fault that line of thinking. Update 2. A lot has happened. I did the blasting, and this is how it went down. I first posted on my family's FB group we share. This is from my mom's family side. I used inspiration of what you all suggested in my last post and said something around the lines of, I want to communicate to you all that my wedding with X has been permanently cancelled, since I found out that my mom, name, and my ex, name, had in the last few years a sexual relationship which resulted in the birth of my little brother, name. I had no clue of any of this, and I found out about it last week. I won't have a relationship with, name, mom, and ex, name, for obvious reasons. I would appreciate your understanding, and I felt it was only fair to let you know of the situation, since I value transparency and honesty above all. I also included a screenshot of my mother's message, what I said to her once I found out, and a message she managed to write back before I blocked her. Didn't open the message till before the blasting. I didn't want to read her and be persuaded. It exploded. I had family reaching out via text and calling the whole day after the blasting. I would say most were very supportive, and I could tell they were just shocked. There were a few neutral and some suspicious that it wasn't the whole story and maybe I misunderstood. My grandparents were in the maybe you misunderstood category, which wasn't surprising since my mom is super close to my grandparents, and like I said before, my mom was always a good mom. So no red flags. I will be moving with a cousin that is more like a sister to me. I haven't reached out to her previously because I knew once she knew everyone would. That's why I went to my friend's place. My cousin is devastated on my behalf and offered to live with her and her 2 kids until I can get my feet on the ground. I accepted and will be moving next week. I'm a bit afraid this will give my mom an easier access to me, but I can't stay at my friend's place forever. I then proceeded quickly to post a similar message for my, we share most of our friends since high school and local university, friends on Instagram. I created a close friends story and tagged most of them too. This went sort of viral in our friend group. Actually, one of my friends sent me my Reddit post and asked if this was me. I confirmed. They were also shocked and speechless. They never thought my ex would even remotely do anything like this. They said he was crazy about you. Oh well, apparently he went overboard on the crazy part. The group of friends is divided ATM, some are completely on my side, and some are thinking it isn't the whole truth. I told everyone that reached out that if they don't believe me to ask their friend if he is asking for custody of my little brother. That kinda shut them up for now. My ex deleted his social media. Also, my ex's parents called me like I guessed they would. They were kind to me and were very sorry about everything. I got the feeling they are also overwhelmed and very disappointed. However, it was clear they will be supporting their son. They are very upset at my mother, and don't want anything to do with her, but not sure how that will work with my little brother and everything else. They tried to give me info about the custody and what is my ex up to now, but I shut that down quickly and told them I don't want any info, I want to move on. I also asked them to not reach out in the near future, that I needed distance, especially if they will be supporting my ex. He is living with his parents ATM. Also, my ex and my mother after the blast were going nuts trying to reach out to me. They tried calling my friend, who she blocked them, and reaching out from different numbers. I had to put my phone on silent and ignore everyone. However, my mother sent me a long text, from another number, and that was a weird text. She said that I was being cruel and that she didn't think she raised me that way. She said she thought we had a better relationship than me blasting out laundry like that without talking to her first. That I didn't have the whole picture. She did mention something that confused me. She said in her long-ass text, that the reason she slept with my ex, is because he reminded him of my dad. That it was grief. That she didn't mean to use him to heal her pain, but she wasn't strong enough. I don't even know what that means. Like, did she think that my ex looks physically like my dad? Or personality? Or what? I have seen photos of my dad, and well, yay, my ex isn't super different but also not super alike. I mean, they share brown dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, white skin. But that's not so uncommon. I don't see what else. I don't know. That threw me for a loop and honestly makes me want to confront my mom just to know what the hell. From all the things she could say, I was not expecting that. I'm holding on better. I don't cry every hour or want to murder them. But, I'm still sad and upset and it just feels like it isn't my life. That it is a big joke or a bad dream and I will wake up to my normal life. I also need to really start planning my future and start applying for jobs in other cities. Or maybe check the possibilities abroad more seriously. I might ask for 2-3 days off work to really get my thoughts together and do some research. I'm terrified tbh. I feel frozen, but I know I need to start moving. Editor's note, this one has some funny comments. Commenter 1, that mom is hilarious. I thought I raised you better. I never in a million years thought you'd fuck my boyfriend, but here we are. Commenter 2, my petty ass would be sending her that. Commenter 3, right. The irony of her blaming you for airing laundry when she did that. Commenter 4, the laundry wouldn't be dirty if you hadn't fucked my boyfriend on it. My husband can't accept that I don't like mustard. When I protested, he threatened divorce and drove dangerously, putting us both at risk. We've been married 2 years, dating 5. We are both 34, I'm a woman, he's a man if it matters. I'm not a picky eater. In fact, I'm quite adventurous and every time I've traveled I've always made it a point to try dishes with unusual, uncommon ingredients to say I've tried them. There are very few foods I won't eat. One of them is mustard, the condiment. I don't like it. I just don't. The taste is very strong and overpowering and it's an unpleasant taste. I've tried yellow, stone ground, honey, artisan, brown, spicy, you name it. I have tried them all. And I just don't like them. My husband for some reason never understood this. He loves mustard, especially honey mustard. He puts it on all his sandwiches, dips his fries in it. And every time he tries to force me to try it, he'll insist I'll like it this time. I'm a grown-ass woman. I know what I don't like. And I don't like mustard. So I'll say no and it'll devolve into a mini argument where he'll call me picky. Well, last night we were on the road home from a weekend trip we took together and he stopped at a gas station to get us a quick bite. He got a hot dog slathered in mustard. I got one but decided to keep it plain. I don't really love hot dogs to begin with but I will eat them. While we waited in line he asked what I got on mine. I told him nothing. He actually got furious and grabbed it from me. He marched over to the condiment station and began putting mustard on my hot dog, telling me to grow up and stop being picky. I just walked out and sat in the car. I didn't even want the damn hot dog anymore. My appetite was gone. He came back and began screaming at me for embarrassing him even further. The word divorce was said for the first time ever. I secretly recorded his screaming because I was genuinely afraid I would die. He was driving erratically, swerving and speeding. I'm in a hotel tonight. He ignored me all day at work and then the calls started around when he realized I wasn't coming home. Non-stop voicemails and texts. He sent me a screenshot of a Google search for local divorce lawyers. I haven't eaten all day and I've been sobbing in this damn hotel room. I don't want to get divorced and I wish I had just ate the fucking mustard. Someone, anyone, please give me an explanation. Am I in danger? Why would he react this way to a preference of mine? I'm completely broken right now. Relevant comment. Commenter, there's gotta be more going on here than mustard. Things just don't escalate from mini arguments to full of screaming rages and divorce lawyers. But it's pretty simple. You said no. He does not respect you. He doesn't respect your right to say no. He does not respect your right to make your own choices about food. Does this lack of respect carry on into things other than your no to mustard? OP, yes. It will usually take him at least 3 times to acknowledge when I say no. Update 1, some answers I guess to questions I saw, regarding when I said no to sex. He respected me if I said no to having sex but he would ask for blowjobs over and over. I used to give in at first until I started dreading doing it. He tried buying all this stuff to make me like it, to make it easier or whatever. I used to like blowjobs. I don't like giving them to him. But he'll still ask over and over. I started responding with, I said no. Are you going to force me to do it? And he'd get squeamish and offended that I'd implied he would rape or assault me. If I have a support system, no. I've always been a very small circle kind of person and I lost touch with casual college friends. My friends are his. It makes me feel like a loser but I don't really have friends of my own. My parents are dead. My dad died when I was a teen and my mom passed recently of heart failure. I have no siblings. I'm financially capable of living on my own and I could pay for a divorce. I just really didn't want things to be this way. The mustard thing was always just an annoyance to me. I didn't consider it a deal breaker, but obviously it is for him. We have no kids and no equity. Our finances are separate save for one joint account we equally contribute to for bills. We were looking at buying a house. I'm safe. I'm at work and I'm staying in the hotel until further notice. He has continued to text. One message said that he loves me and doesn't want to lose me, but I've forced his hand by refusing to communicate or come home. I haven't answered. I don't know what to say. I forced myself to eat my favorite takeout late last night, but it tasted like cardboard. I stayed up late compiling a list of every time he has shown worrying behavior. I guess the mustard is the tip of the iceberg. Relevant comment. OP, an addendum, I suppose. I do very much love him and he has been my best friend for years now. I really do, plan to spend my life with him. I'm not afraid of being alone, but I don't want to be lonely. I wish my mom was here. Update 2. Sincerely, thank you all for your kind words as well as sending me links to resources. He has reverted back and has told me that he never wants to see me again. So I suppose that gives me time to read that book that someone on RA suggested to me. I forget the name. I will admit while I was at work and thinking of the lonely room waiting for me after 5, I considered just going home. But I knew what awaited me. I'm too drained to muster up the kind of apology he would be expecting in order for things to go back to normal. I honestly fear that our normal is detrimental to me. I also don't want to apologize. I don't think I did anything wrong, and you all helped validate that. I always felt like I was the one disturbing the peace. He'd get so upset over things that were little to no effort for me to just do or go along with because I loved him. And somewhere along the way I think I lost myself. I never liked mustard. I never liked golf, camping, or red wine. But he loves all of these and wants me to love them too. He said he was introducing me to his hobbies so we would have shared interests as a couple. But I have realized that out of all the things I used to like, he has either refused to try or ignored my interest. Our shared interests are just his. God, how do I feel like my own person again? My world broke not 2 days ago and now I'm drunk at a hotel bar switching between Reddit and researching divorce lawyers. I still don't want a divorce. It's so permanent. I never pictured myself as a divorcee. I used to think that every choice I made deliberately. It used to be a point of pride for me, but he's making this choice for me. And it hurts. Update 3. First of all, I took this week off at the encouragement of my employer. I plan to spend it finding a therapist that specializes in domestic abuse and sexual assault, which I've come to realize I'm a victim of. I feel completely numb. I'm also looking into a divorce lawyer. Secondly, he found the hotel where I was staying. I guess he followed me from work. He was waiting in the lobby. God, my heart skipped a beat and I realized that I did not miss him at all. I was afraid of making a scene. I need to unlearn that, so I sat with him in the lounge area and talked. I'll summarize it. I pointed out the security camera and said if he tried to hurt me, there'd be footage and I would press charges without a second thought. He was completely shocked and said he'd never hurt me. I reminded him how I feared for my life in the car. He ignored me. He asked why I wasn't coming home. I was completely blank-faced when I told him, because you're divorcing me. He said he didn't mean it and was just upset. I said, when normal people are upset, they express it in a healthy way. You threatened the end of our marriage. I'm taking you seriously. He got pissed and asked if I was saying he wasn't normal. Honestly, I just wanted the conversation to be done, so I told him if that's really all he heard then there was no point in talking anymore. I told him I was looking for a lawyer and he should probably do the same if he hasn't found one. He lashed out and said, all this over one mistake. And I just stared at him. As I made to stand up, he grabbed my wrist hard and I pointed at the camera again. This just made him angrier. He never could handle slights to his ego. One mistake. It wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern of abuse over years. It was threatening me, intimidating me. I told him if he tried to contact me again beyond sending me his lawyer's details, I'd be calling the police. He let me go. I want to say I was a badass and celebrated in my room. I collapsed onto my bed and began sobbing. I was just so sick and angry and sad. He truly doesn't care about me. I've been crying on and off while calling local therapists. God, why is it so hard to find one? The amount of therapists that advertise but turn out to not be accepting new patients is unacceptable. I've looked into victims of DVDA support groups as well. In the span of less than a month my life has completely changed. And he isn't remorseful at all. He just thinks it's all my fault. Relevant comment. OP, I will probably move. I saw my RA post get reposted on Twitter. I'm terrified he'll see it and come for me. A lot of people commenting on it were saying he would try to kill me and I believe them. Update 4. I have a divorce lawyer. That's all I am comfortable with revealing here for the time being. I will also mention that I have moved locations. I am safe and secure. My work has allowed me to go fully remote. My STBX does not have my location, nor are there any trackers on my phone. I am in contact with people and organizations who are helping me. Earlier this week, the calls and texts really ramped up. I was advised to leave him unblocked and simply muted so his messages would come through. I read a few since I was curious. He wanted me at Thanksgiving dinner with his family. He begged me to stop being this way, and what was he supposed to tell his family? Well, Thursday came and went. I had bought a couple of ready meals the night before, so that was my feast. I do want to take a break here to talk about my mom. Since it was only 3 of us every holiday, except the rare times friends would come over, my mom wouldn't make a turkey. She would buy a rotisserie chicken and dress it up with stuffing, etc. She'd make dishes we loved rather than traditional Thanksgiving dishes. My favorite side dish of all time was French fries. My dad loved grilled asparagus with cheese. So we would have a rotisserie chicken with French fries, asparagus, and some garlic toast, my mom's favorite. The first time I had real traditional Thanksgiving food at a friend's house, I apparently told my mom loudly I didn't like it and asked where the fries were, haha. So this year, instead of my STB ex-husband's family's Thanksgiving food, I bought asparagus, fries, garlic toast, and a couple of slices of rotisserie chicken. It wasn't half as good as my mother's meal. But when I say I cried eating it, it felt like they were with me that night. I guess my absence at the dinner forced my STBX to tell his family that I was separated from him. So Friday morning I got a phone call from an unfamiliar number. I answered it, thinking maybe it was my lawyer's home phone or another person I was in contact with. It was my mother-in-law. She begged me not to hang up on her. So I stayed on the line. She went on about how I was her daughter, she loved me, her son loved me, and how could I leave him over something so minor. He only told his mom about the mustard, and even then it was a watered-down version that made me look like a neurotic control freak who needed everything my way. According to my MIL, he just made a side cup of it for me and asked me to just try it in the car. And I started screaming I'd divorce him. She then started probing about which lawyer I was seeing and what I had told them. She also reminded me that lying in court was a crime. My lawyer had warned me to not reveal anything we had discussed to his family. It took all my willpower not to say anything. Instead, I hung up and muted her number too. She hasn't texted or tried to call again. Trust me, I would have loved to send the recording of her son screaming saying he ought to smack me upside the head, calling me a stubborn bitch, that he would divorce me and that he would run the car off the fucking road if I didn't start acting right. I wanted to scream into the phone that her precious son started this mess and I was simply doing what he wanted. I have come to realize you don't treat someone you love like the way he has acted. Normal people don't want to have sex with someone who has already said no. Normal people don't keep pushing and obsessing over food preferences. There is something seriously wrong with that man. He texted me last night, Friday, calling me a bitch for making his mother cry. He also said he would come find me and it would take more than a locked door to keep him from getting me and taking me home. I forwarded those to the right people. I know this isn't a happy update, but things are moving along quite nicely. Update 5. I moved. I will not say where, but I have found a new home. My job lets me stay permanently remote. I can't go into details about my divorce or other current legal proceedings, but I can say I was granted a protective order due to something that happened back in December. Due to the nature of what happened, I was hospitalized for a time. That was what I guess made me realize I wanted to get the fuck out. I traded my car, had my phone checked for tracking apps and devices, and changed my number. He cannot contact me or have anyone contact me on his behalf. I am now several hours and state lines away from him and his wretched family. I moved with only 2 suitcases and a duffel of my stuff. I cannot wait to furnish and decorate my new home the way I always wanted it. I'm in therapy and I have a survivor support group I see weekly. I will be okay. I feel like I can finally breathe. Update 6. Hello. It's been a while. I'd sort of forgotten about this account until I saw screenshots of my posts uploaded to Instagram. Some key points. I am still going to therapy, individual counseling and bi-weekly group meetups for victims of DV. I am absolutely not dating. I saw some comments that said they hoped I found a fairy tale man. That's the last thing I want or need. I strive for independence and self-love before I consider finding a new partner. It'll probably be years before I'm ready, and that's okay. I have discovered a love of cooking and trying new cuisines. I didn't realize how boring my ex's taste was until I escaped him. Slathering mustard on a $2 hot dog does not mean you have superior taste buds. Sorry, I had to get a jab in somehow. Nothing new or dramatic has happened, and that is the way I like it. What matters is, I'm alive, and I'm happy. I didn't realize how little I'd made myself until I was given the space to be. That's all I'm willing to give for my update for now. Peace and love. Relevant comment. OP's picky eating. There's nothing wrong with being a picky eater, but I'm actually not. I'm finding I love a huge variety of flavors and ingredients. My STBX was actually a very, very picky eater. I'm coming to realize. Maybe some projection on his part. Update 7, it seems that I just can't escape my story, haha. I was getting ready for the day when my TikTok feed showed a podcast reading and reacting to my story. I'm here to reassure all of you that I'm okay, alive, safe, free, and with that stress and anxiety, mostly, cleared up. I feel like I can finally put to words my emotions. I was very small and skittish during the abuse and for some time after leaving. I'm not sure how else to put it, but I felt like I had to be small. I was constantly regulating and accommodating. It was horrible, in retrospect, but no one prepared me for the emotional turmoil that ensues once you're safe and away. I felt rage like nothing else. I would spend hours screaming and crying into my pillow, hating him, wondering how dare he treat me like that. As therapy and my support group has worked to rebuild my self-esteem, I've become more and more outraged on my own behalf. I read why does he do that, and while it helps provide context to why he abused me, it still doesn't make me feel less angry, I guess. I'm angry for myself as a human being. He treated others with respect but thought I deserved all that he did to me. And that makes me angry. Of course there was relief, sadness, all of that. I think I slept for days straight after I left. I was in a daze. My therapist reassured me that all of this is normal. I don't want this update to be negative, not in the slightest. So some good news as well. My therapist recommended yoga and Pilates, and it has been great for me. The release of a deep stretch, being in shape, feeling strong, it all has helped me massively. I feel healthy, and yes, I cry when I do hip opening stretches. Haha. Also, I made friends, real friends. I joined a local women's club, part of my neighborhood, and we do various activities bi-monthly. This next week, we'll be doing a little embroidery project. Everyone brings snacks and we just enjoy each other's company. I'm alive. I'm angry, but that is part of healing, but I am working on being happy. Also, I will never, ever eat mustard again, or be pushed into doing anything I said no to the first time. Relevant comment. OP clarifies, he did not do jail time. He went to mandated counseling and that was considered legally acceptable, equivalent to jail in our state. TW, sexual assault, he raped me. That's the catalyst that resulted in me moving and our divorce moving along properly. He was trying to impregnate me. He told me that. My husband's sister died from falling down the stairs 6 months ago. Now my husband has suddenly and baselessly accused me of killing her. This is long and ridiculous. Sorry. My 30 husband, Luke, 33, had a sister, Laura, 29. We were all close and saw each other 2-3 times a month, along with their parents. Almost 6 months ago, Laura fell down the stairs at their family home and died. It was a freak accident. There's a window on the half landing and she hit her head on the sill. I was the last person to see her. I was there for less than 10 minutes and she was in her pajamas making coffee. I didn't even stay for a drink, and I struggle with how such a brief and meaningless interaction could have been her last. She deserved so much more. My husband and I have only been married for a year, but we've been together for 4 and have known each other for 20 plus. When Laura's parents found her, they called my husband straight away and we rushed over. We faced the whole thing as a family. In the days after, Luke started quizzing me. Exactly what we talked about. What she was wearing, where we were standing, etc. It progressed to saying I was providing conflicting information, on tiny details he was deliberately misunderstanding, and accusing me of withholding information because I couldn't tell him things like what pajamas she was wearing. This escalated quickly but lasted for less than a week, as I lost my cool and made it clear that I was done answering questions. He didn't bring it up again and I wrote it off as a grief quirk. His behavior was generally that of a normal, grieving person. Last Friday, he outright accused me of murdering her, in front of his parents. Out of the blue. We were all stunned. There was an inquest which recently concluded and there was never any doubt the verdict would be accidental death. He said it was completely obvious and he couldn't believe that no one else could see it. He claims I went through his phone and found his messages with Laura. I have absolutely no idea what messages he's talking about. I have never looked at his phone, and that I went over to confront her and things got out of hand, and I pushed her downstairs. By the end he was shouting about going to the police and getting the inquest overturned, and how I wasn't going to get away with it. Let me be clear, Laura and I had a great relationship. We all did. I have no idea where this has come from, other than these messages I haven't seen, and even then, I don't think there's anything I could ever see on someone's phone that would drive me to murder. It's just ridiculous. He's been with his parents since this happened and will not talk to me at all. I've had some contact with his mom, but she's not being very communicative. The last I heard, she didn't know what messages he was referring to either. I am still completely stunned and I have no idea how to proceed. I made a commitment to be there for him always, and I understand that grief can manifest in strange ways, but part of me feels like my love for him died the second he called me a murderer, and I don't know how we could possibly work through this. I also really don't want to be thought of in this way, and I have no idea if he has said anything to people we know. I obviously haven't. A brain tumor or psychotic break has crossed my mind, and I suggested it to his mother, and she just said she'll talk to him. Other than the questions before, he hasn't been acting odd. Obviously he's been grieving, but he's seemed sane and sensible other than this. I feel like I'm going mad. Does anyone have any advice at all? TL Doctor, my husband's sister died in a horrible accident, and my husband, for absolutely no reason other than some mystery messages, thinks I murdered her? Edit. It has come to my attention that I accidentally used Laura's real name once in this post. Can I kindly ask anyone who commented who is real name? Delete their comment, as I really don't want this to bleed into my real life. For obvious reasons. Relevant comments. Moral_tack. Fuck no. You don't salvage this. You get a lawyer and get the fuck out. Best case scenario, he has just admitted to sending messages with his sister that he thinks would make you angry enough to kill her over them. I have some ideas about what those might be, and they're all bad. How did the parents react when he did this? OP, when he first laid out the accusation, at his parents' house, both his mother and I just kept asking him about the messages, and all he would say was that I know exactly what messages he was talking about. She was as stunned as me, and his father just said he didn't understand what he was talking about. He's a man of few words, but there was plenty of head shaking. The whole thing was surreal, no one knew how to react. I honestly don't know what kind of lawyer I would even speak to about this. From what I'm aware, the coroner's decision can't be appealed and the police can't launch an investigation into an accidental death. I don't think I'm quite ready for divorce. We haven't spoken since his accusation, and I walked out about 5 minutes after he threw it out, and I have no idea what his frame of mind is. Wonderful Prior 381. You need to get a lawyer to protect yourself in case he does go to the police. I would write down everything that you can remember that happened that day and keep it just in case. He may be having a psychotic break. As stated, don't talk to him or his immediate family or your friends without someone present, or preferably by text or email. Save everything. You need to take his accusations seriously and cover your ass. OP, I was interviewed by the coroner's office after her death, as I was the last person to see her. She died about 3 hours after I saw her, and I'd been to the supermarket and was home by that point. It's all verifiable and was a recorded interview. I haven't spoken to anyone but his mother, and that's only been over messages. She's never been a big texter, but she has seemed very cagey over the past few days. I don't know if this means she's seen the messages. I've asked and been ignored. Grolsch's good. I think they mean to record everything you remember about the day your soon-to-be ex accused you of murder. OP, I'm feeling so freaked out at the idea that he came up with this almost immediately after her death, and has either been sitting on it or planning his confrontation, that I'm basically trying to dissect the past 6 months. Maybe it's time I start writing things down. Right until it happened, things felt very normal. Obviously her death has been felt deeply by all of us and things aren't anything like they were, but there have been no signs of anything like this, even on the day. OP on getting the messages. I'm absolutely desperate to see these messages, because I'm right there with you on the sheer wackiness of what they have to contain. It hadn't occurred to me that they might not exist. I've never known him to lie, but I do think a mental health issue is a real possibility. His relationship with his sister didn't seem odd, and I've never been interested in his phone, but he's never been defensive about it either, so I think you might be right. If I had such incriminating messages, I'd probably worry about them before now. When told to find an old iPad to use to access them, I have his iCloud password. It has a backup from yesterday. I have no idea how to turn this into something I can actually use. It doesn't have a messages folder or any signs of how to use it for anything other than restoring a whole phone, which I don't want to do. Does anyone know how to actually get the messages from this? Sorry to throw a tech support request in. I can't believe I didn't think of this. Huge thanks to the person who suggested it. Update 1. I'm in a bizarre and complex situation with my husband. I have broken the law, and I feel I have no choice but to do so again for my safety. I don't know what type of solicitor I need or what the next steps should look like. We're in England, and I'll try not to editorialize too much. My husband's sister died suddenly at the start of the year. Her death was an accident and there was no suggestion to the contrary. The inquest was recently concluded and a verdict of accidental death returned. I was the last person to see her, but her time of death, which was almost immediate due to her injury, was confirmed to be hours after I had left the house. All of this was verified at the time. In the immediate aftermath, my husband behaved strangely and kept trying to trip up my story of the last time we saw each other, which was a brief interaction. Last week, months after this was first and last mentioned, he outright accused me of murder, in front of his parents. He says I saw his messages with his sister and confronted her, and that he's going to have the coroner's decision overturned and have the police investigate. I haven't seen or heard from him since. Today is day 9. I posted for advice on Reddit. I'm pretty desperate at this point, and it has spooked me. Quite reasonably I think, but also led to me committing a crime and planning another. My husband's iCloud credentials were saved on an old iPad in his office, and I downloaded his backup last night. I have read all of his messages with his sister, and there is absolutely nothing like he describes. I understand this is illegal and I'm concerned about the possible ramifications. I am also waiting for a callback from a locksmith to change the locks on the home we own together, which I believe is also against the law. So this leads to my actual questions. I feel justified in what I've done for my safety, but is there a degree of pragmatism under the law for these issues because of the situation? Or am I shooting myself in the foot? I am resigned to the fact my relationship is over, but his parents don't seem to be taking this seriously and they're icing me out. I believe this is a serious mental health issue which may put people, namely me, at risk. Can I do anything about this when all I have is the fact I'm being accused of murder? I feel he needs to be detained and this should be investigated as a full-blown psychotic break. Sorry, this is all a bit mental. In addition, what type of solicitor do I need? My understanding is that a coroner decision can't be appealed. Is that correct? Are his accusations going to go anywhere? Can I protect myself from this or stop him escalating to telling others? We live in our hometown and everyone knows everyone. This could follow me forever and it's either a lie or a delusion. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Relevant comments when told OP can't lock out her husband or force him to get a psych eval. OP. Thank you so much for your response. Locking each other out doesn't sound like a pattern I want to get into, but I think I'll go ahead and change them once on the basis that it isn't you did this so you have to leave the house, and also you'll be prosecuted. Levels of seriousness. In terms of him being deemed to lack capacity, is there any way I can trigger the process that you know of? Is something like this sufficient for the Mental Health Act to kick in? I've been Googling and you can be detained if professionals think your mental health puts you or others at risk, and you need to be in hospital. Seems very vague. Obviously I'm biased, but accusing someone of murder and screaming about how they aren't going to get away with it feels like risky behavior. Does he need to have made explicit threats or is there a clearer bar to meet? Sorry for asking so many questions. No Firefighter, 9257. You are jumping ahead of yourself and playing out situations that have not occurred. If your husband reports you to the police for accessing his data and you are subsequently arrested or taken in for questioning, then obtain the services of a criminal solicitor for advice. With respect of changing locks, ending your marriage, seek a solicitor that deals with family law divorce. If you feel that you're at risk from your husband, talk to a domestic abuse helpline. If you feel you're at an immediate risk of harm, then call the police. If you think your husband is mentally ill and presents a risk to himself or others, call the police. OP. I don't think that's a fair assessment. Being accused of arguably the most serious crime to exist has most definitely occurred. My understanding of the law is that something is illegal whether you're reported to the police or not. Those messages are evidence, as far as I'm concerned, that his accusations are false. They were apparently the trigger to me literally murdering someone I was extremely close to. I have illegally accessed them, and I don't think it's unreasonable to inquire as to the potential impact of that. I am fully aware that I need a solicitor, but as you're probably aware, today is Sunday. I don't know if I need to seek someone out based on a divorce, which honestly, if this is a mental health issue, is not going to be something I go for, or a criminal solicitor, or someone who deals with the Mental Health Act, as my absolute priority preference is getting him assessed. My only exposure to the legal system in my entire life was through the inquest, and that is obviously completely different to any of this. I'm not educated in this area. Commenter. It's sad and slightly suspicious that OP is jumping ahead to mental health assessments to defend themselves from accusations of murder when their husband is clearly going through some serious issues coping with the death of his sister. OP, what else can I do? He has blocked me everywhere, and we went from a normal couple dealing with the new normal 6 months after the death of his sister, to me being accused of murder over a family dinner because of messages which clearly don't exist, and it's been 9 days and I've heard nothing since. Can I remind you that the inquest was held and concluded? I dropped off some Tupperware, grabbed an umbrella I'd left behind the previous week, went to a big Tesco, then went home and called my mom. I was already home by the time she died, and my whereabouts were extremely easy to verify because my husband was home all day. It's obvious that he's going through some serious issues coping with the death of his sister. That is the exact point of all of this. Update 2. Firstly, thank you to those who helped me get to my husband's iCloud backups through an old iPad. I wasn't expecting much from Reddit, but I got valuable practical advice before my post was locked, and I appreciate it. There were no crazy, or even suspicious messages. I've searched for over 100 terms and scrolled back over the years. I saw a side of them both I wasn't expecting, but nothing that explains the claim I murdered Laura over their chats. Nothing to suggest he was cheating. Absolutely nothing to suggest incest. I repeat, no incest. No weird gaps where deleted conversations or a switch to another app would fit. Just siblings making plans, sending memes, and gossiping. They said unexpectedly horrible stuff about a few people, but not me. It was a sort of relief, but it raised more questions than it answered. I sought legal advice, also from Reddit, after posting here. Turns out my options are divorce him or sit down. I contacted my community mental health team, who said they'd reach out, but made it clear it wasn't urgent. I then called his mom and said that if I didn't hear from him by this weekend, I would get a solicitor and ask for a mental health assessment as part of the divorce. In response, he made a ridiculous post to Facebook, which neither of us have used in years, and everything blew up. I'm going to try to keep this succinct. On Friday night, he made a long accusation on Facebook, with new information. He said he'd been planning to leave me for months with his sister's support, and I found the messages, and murdered her. The coroner has reopened the case and the police are preparing to arrest me, and he needs to make sure people know before the trial stops him talking about it. It was well written and seemed vaguely plausible. He messaged people with links so it got some attention. We live in our hometown, and have a large circle of friends because we've been here all our lives. People I haven't spoken to since school were reaching out to me asking WTF was going on. It was madness. In response, I posted the export of his entire conversation history with Laura, also to Facebook, when I finally got back in. I linked to the chat along with a post explaining my side, and noting that I had changed my ex's iCloud and Apple passwords, and that if he wanted them back, he should comment on my post and update his own, admitting that he was lying. He eventually did. When I started getting messages about his post, I panicked, and changing his password seemed important to preserve everything because he'd know I had access. When I spoke to him the next morning, it's clear he's not having a mental episode at all, but is claiming one because he's been caught in a big lie. As soon as he was outed, he called me, clearly drunk, begging and promising to explain everything if I deleted my post. I hung up and told him to call back the next day. He did, after many missed calls and texts, and he tried to bargain and guilt-trip me with his mental health until it was clear the wrong people had seen his conversation. It's hard to describe, but it seemed fake. It was too well rehearsed, and then this morning, when it was clear he was getting nowhere, he blocked me. Begging for mercy and reciting facts about mental disorders doesn't align with someone in crisis with a sincere belief that someone murdered their sibling. The question of why he did all this remains unanswered, and he will not be getting his passwords until it is. The legal advice subreddit said this stuff is technically illegal, but it's beneath a court to take action, so I'm going to count on that because I felt like I had no other choice at the time, and now I don't see any other way to get answers from him. I am desperate and it's all I've got. So there we are. The relationship I have believed was my destiny since I was a teenager has boiled down to petty, convoluted and vindictive bullshit, played out on social media for reasons still unknown. My hope for a brain tumor is fading, and clearly tomorrow morning is going to be when I lawyer up and stop posting about this. I am mortified. I have no idea whether some people might believe him, and I still don't know why this all happened in the first place. Sorry I don't have a happier update, and thanks once again to everyone who offered advice. I was sick to my stomach when I discovered my wife's secret Google account, which contained hundreds of photos of my ex-girlfriend. I, 36, met my wife Bailey, 33, 9 years ago through mutual coworkers, and we hit it off immediately. I fell absolutely head over heels with this woman. She was everything I was looking for. I had gotten out of a toxic, dare I say abusive long-term relationship right before that with a woman Bailey had been acquainted with, but not friends with. I had her blocked on everything, and had no contact with her since breaking up. We got married right after the tail end of the pandemic, bought our first house together, and started trying to conceive. That was difficult because Bailey has PCOS, but last year she finally gave birth to our first daughter. I'm having a blast being a dad. It's kind of a dream come true. I finally got my happy life with my perfect wife. My perfect wife. Until last Monday. My laptop's battery hit the bed, so I opened up Bailey's work tablet with an attached keyboard. You can set it up like a monitor, to check on some tax stuff. She wasn't home, it was just me and the baby, but we've never asked permission to use each other's devices. We've always been open like that. There's nothing for us to hide. That's what I thought. When I opened up the internet, I noticed she had the incognito tab open. Never in a million years did I expect to discover what I did. My wife has a secret Google account with a photo album saved called XX. So I clicked on it. Did I discover an affair? Nudes? Nope. In this Google album were over 300 photos, 348 actually, of my ex. The woman I was with right before I met Bailey. The woman who tormented me and made me feel worthless. The album said it was started back right around the time Bailey and I started dating, and was updated as recently as 2 weeks ago. The photos range from candid shots with family, to pictures at her work functions. There were even pictures from her yearbook. I don't know how Bailey could have found her high school yearbook photos. Photos from vacations, Idaho photos from work. Pictures of her in crowds, screenshots of videos and screen recordings of videos. Just her. The other people in the photos would be scribbled out, or the photo would be cropped and zoomed in just on my ex. There were other disturbing things I found too. There was another album with just zoomed up pictures of my ex's hair. Come to think of it, Bailey had recently started wearing her hair different and my ex had a very identifiable hair type. There was another album with screenshots of comments on social media. Of course I can't find them because I have her blocked. Like, Facebook groups she's in and public posts. And my ex is very low-key on social media. I can't imagine the lengths Bailey went to find them. My ex literally lives in another country now. There were also different links to the exact outfits she was wearing, like very specific blouses and trousers you'd have to really go looking for to find. A specific water bottle I remembered purchasing, and identical hiking boots and sandals. So basically, my partner of almost a decade has been a single white female. My girlfriend has secretly stalked her to the point of buying her exact clothes and changing her hair, and now I'm starting to realize Bailey's new interests over the years were just my ex's. Bailey has turned herself into my ex. Everything feels like a lie. Our love feels like a lie. The things we share feel like a lie. I threw up and had a panic attack. I looked at our daughter and felt betrayed. I haven't confronted her yet. I don't know if I want to. I want to run away with our daughter. I want to print out all her pictures, leave them on the table and disappear. I don't know what to do, I just want to throw up. Relevant comments. Shmai. Holy cow. That definitely is alarming. The best thing to do is address it now to see what'll change if she no longer has someone to replicate. The toxic side of me would slowly start mentioning things like, you know, you really do remind me of someone. And nonchalantly bite into an apple and walk away. OP, I feel like what's worse is that she's subtly made these changes over time under my nose. So my ex has a specific career and Bailey didn't express interest in switching careers to the exact same thing until after I had mentioned what my ex did. Didn't notice at the time, but I remember telling her ex went to school for that. The hair was more recent, the outfits and objects, slowly over time. The interests, I'm not sure how much she's stolen personality-wise from my ex and what she actually likes. It's all incredibly exhausting and confusing. Miss_chapstick. I'm so sorry, this sounds like something out of creepypasta. OP, I'm actually surprised with the amount of support I've gotten here in the last hour, haha. Believe it or not, there are no other red flags in our marriage. Now I don't know what else I've missed. OP added. While I talked about my ex, most of the things I told my wife about were negative and painted her in not such a good light. My wife knows these things and knows they were traumatic. Of course, I've mentioned things like what she does for a living and things she used to do. I think everything else she found she got through intense cyberstalking through my ex's friends and family. The yearbook photos, I have no idea. Edit, removed specific info so I don't accidentally dox myself. Update. I'm pretty sure I accidentally got my original post removed just now because I tried to update it with a link to my update. Oops. Anyway, I'm the guy who found the Google Drive full of pictures of my ex. So, I was not expecting my original post to go viral on YouTube and TikTok, and have so many responses. Yikes. I am overwhelmed by the support. I am humbled by the number of people who have been through this experience, on both sides. I have an update, but it's probably not as exciting and as juicy as you want. It's not bad though. First, let me clear things up. If people think this post is fake because it doesn't make sense, or are trying to conceive timeline is short, Or the way I worded things makes it look like a teenager or woman wrote it. Continue to think that because it means I've successfully been vague enough and worded things to not accidentally dox myself. Believe this is a creative writing exercise, so I don't embarrass myself. For real. No, I didn't actually throw up. I was in the middle of a panic attack. Private browsing. Tabs were open to the websites with clothing and objects. Another tab was signed into Google Photos. When I exited the Google Photo tab to look at the websites with clothing and came back, it was already signed out and I couldn't get back in. A lot of the clothing I recognized wasn't because I remembered my ex wearing them. There were more recent pictures of her in the file wearing them, and I remember the day Bailey bought the water bottle that also happened to be in the folder. The hair. Bailey and my ex are the same race and my ex wore braids in a particular way. Not so particular that it's exclusive to my ex, because Bailey has also worn different braids, but seeing pictures of her made me put two and two together. Is there any way Bailey could have gotten with me in an attempt to get to my ex? Was Bailey possibly obsessed with my ex before she met me? Probably not, because Bailey grew up here and my ex originally moved here for university. And while you can drive across the border, it's not that easy and I don't think Bailey was going back and forth to stalk her in person. Also, the reasons why my ex and I broke up have nothing to do with Bailey and she could not have had any involvement. On to the actual update. The next day when I had calmed down I called several social workers and therapists. I was planning to confront her there. Unfortunately, the only places that take our insurance did not have an opening for another couple weeks. So despite what a lot of you think, I've known my wife for nearly a decade and even while I was confused and upset and doubting things, I didn't think she'd be a danger to me. We took the baby to grandma's and I asked her to go for a walk with me. I did not beat around the bush and straight up told her I found the folder. Her face got very red and she was frozen, but also tried to play dumb at first. I was persistent and she started crying and begged me not to leave her. This is what I uncovered. Bailey first started looking up my ex out of curiosity. To keep tabs, I guess? But over time it became more pathological. It's like she got addicted to it, but she also wanted to please me. Okay, maybe I talked about my ex a lot more than I thought, and Bailey wanted to emulate the good parts. She told me she really doesn't know who she is, and my ex's image was something she latched onto because she had me first. Finding information about her became a game. Finding the clothing and objects became a game, by searching things like, blue water bottle green stripe, until the couple compared the product to a photo and found the exact one. The reason why I couldn't find the post wasn't because I had blocked my ex, but because my ex had made a new Facebook under a different name. Bailey found her profile by searching up a family member. She made fake social media and added enough mutual friends until she could see my ex's posts, and until her private Instagram accepted her. She weaseled her way into her exercise Facebook group, where the videos were posted, and searched her school on a yearbook website to find the yearbook pictures. Over time she just collected the images and would get excited to find something new, despite the fact that my ex is extremely private on social media. The folder had originally been called Hex the Ex. In case I discovered it, she was going to make the excuse of saving the pictures to put a hex on her. When she made a burner Google account, she deleted the old folder and named the new one XX. Then she got sloppy and comfortable, and that's right around the time I just happened to open the work tablet. We took a break. It was a while. We made it to couples counseling, and Bailey and I also began seeing separate therapists. She still has not had an assessment with a psychiatrist, but it's on the list. She promised to stop and deleted the album in front of me. Slowly certain clothing items began to disappear from the closet. I still do not entirely trust her and that is for me to work on. I'm afraid she has another secret account somewhere, like a backup. The physical mimicking is actually stopping though, including the hair change. We're still not okay. I want us to be okay, and it's okay if that takes time. If we end up not being okay, then that's something I have to deal with. What I do know is that my wife is incredibly insecure, probably mentally ill, and is misled. I don't really want to walk away from that. Although this probably isn't the most exciting update, I appreciate the private messages I just couldn't get back to, Reddit cares, and links to resources. I'm not sure how I feel about social media, YouTube and TikTok picking up on my story though. That's wild. Until next time, if I ever give another update, I hope it's a good one. Relevant comments. Biscuit Brown, the outcome does not look positive. Why stay in a one-sided relationship? At least put a plan together that runs concurrently so you're prepared should it not work out. Seek legal advice, prepare evidence and don't do anything stupid. At least then you will be in a better place, either way. OP, a plan is something I'm still having trouble coming up with. And it's been a couple months. I think I'm afraid to make a plan, Does that make sense? My wife and I recently encountered a significant issue with her parents because they used X39 patches on our daughter without our consent. I know how the title sounds, but please bear with me. Throwaway for obvious reasons. I, 24, and my wife, 24, recently had our daughter in July. She is the best thing to ever happen to my wife and I, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have our little bundle of joy. She recently got sick while staying with her grandparents, my in-laws, while my wife and I took a trip for work. For context, my in-laws are really big into LifeWave X39. It's a patch that supposedly helps regrow stem cells by reflecting light rays back into your body, allowing your body to produce more stem cells to fight off diseases and sickness. If you ask me, it sounds like snake oil, and my wife agrees, calling it a pyramid scheme. The only way to get said patches is by spending well over $1,000, and then you're tasked with selling the patches yourself. It's essentially some multi-level marketing product, where the more patches you sell, the more money you make. Falling right in line with my wife's comparison to a pyramid scheme, but MLMs are somehow legal. Now I've tried doing research on X39, and the only comments I've seen praise said product are brand new accounts never used before or after, or their entire profile is dedicated to shilling out for LifeWave/X39. In my own research, they appear to just be overpriced stickers. They contain no medication, no special UV rays or anything of the sort. They're literally just an overpriced sticker with an air bubble. But my wife and I have made it very clear that we wanted no part in X39, nor did we want our daughter to have it. Even if it's fake, we wanted no part in it, and on the off chance it did something, I didn't want our daughter to be used as their lab rat or guinea pig. Now, before we left our daughter with my in-laws, we provided them with some infant medication, just in case she got sick. Can never be too safe, you know? Well, we returned home from the work trip early because our daughter wasn't getting any better. So we picked her up and went home. We were going to give her a bath, and in the process of taking her jacket off, we found an X39 patch on her arm. Upon finding it, we immediately called her parents and demanded to know why she had a patch on her. Her parents tried saying that, it's safe for the baby, we even ordered the ones for ages 7 and younger. And that, it's practically medication. Their words. Which still didn't answer our question. So my wife checked the go bag, and the Motrin we gave them was, while it was used, not used very much at all. Her parents tried claiming that someone else in their group or whatever gave it to their son and they got better in a week. Point is, we didn't buy it, nor did we care. We've made it abundantly clear that we wanted nothing to do with X39 and we didn't want our daughter to be a part of it. They failed to listen. My wife was on the phone with them for over an hour, and while I don't know the exact length the conversation went to, I know it at least ended with her screaming, "Going to see my fucking daughter again, and if you attempt to come to my house we will call the police." Before hanging up. That was 3 days ago now, and we've had several missed calls from family members, her parents, her siblings, and even family friends, all saying that we overreacted, and they were just trying to help. Maybe we overreacted, but we wanted nothing to do with that, and despite making it clear, they went against our wishes and did it anyway. And instead of giving my daughter actual medication, they try to give her some placebo patch. Her parents tried claiming that we're stopping them from seeing their only grandchild over something so small. But we did want to hear it. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I kinda think you Tosh for leaving your sick baby to go out of town. OP, we didn't leave a sick baby to go out of town. We left her with her grandparents while she was fine. We only packed Motrin because, as I stated in my post, you can never be too careful. She got sick while we were out of town, not before. Comment 2. You say that like it's snake oil, like it's just as bad as the X39. Was it Advil and cough syrup? Or just a generic bottle that you wrote infant medication on? You expect us to believe that you gave them medication just in case she got sick and then she immediately got sick? Come on, this sounds like total BS. OP, her grandparents don't exactly have children medication laying around. We packed her Motrin, which I quite literally stated later in the post had you read it, not some generic bottle, or snake oil, and just as bad. Nor do they have the ability to really go anywhere. They live a good 30-40 minutes outside of any nearby town. The drive to and from her parents is a grand whole hour drive from where we live. And my wife and I quite literally work with sick people all the time. No, I'm not a doctor, nor do we have medical expertise. So my wife and I contracting something is usually pretty high, so we pack Motrin or whatever the store brand is that we'll buy, every time we left her with her grandparents for more than a day. Update 1, about a month ago I made this post ranting about my in-laws' weird obsession with a, for lack of a better term, cult regarding stem cell regeneration through patches, which, clearly isn't a real thing. There's been some development on that end, and while I'm confident things will likely end here, I wanted to give a quick update for those who may have been curious. I'm writing this on the toilet at work, so don't mind the rushiness of it all. After my wife essentially cut ties with them and we all received a million phone calls and text messages from family and friends, things quieted down for about a week or two. We started having my sister watch our daughter instead, when we had to work. We haven't had another out-of-trip town since the initial post, however. Through those couple of weeks we never really heard anything beyond a couple of supposed shit-talking posts on Facebook bitching about us, but I can't seem to find the posts. We thought things were, probably, hopefully, going to end there, but boy were we wrong. And this is quite the jump from the last post. My wife and I were visited by CPS about 2 weeks ago or so, after they received concerning calls about supposed child abuse and negligence within the household. Of course, nothing like that happened and the caseworker was very quick to see that. We had asked who reported her, and while she couldn't say, we had a suspicion it was from her parents. We were completely helpful and cooperative with the caseworker, and after she left that night, my wife called her mom up and asked her if she's the one who called CPS. Surprisingly, her mother took full accountability, but, not so surprisingly, tried to spin it around in her favor, claiming that she did it for our own good because our daughter was sick and she wasn't getting any better, when she was there so clearly we were doing something awful as parents. Kids get sick, it happens, but they're also extreme anti-vaxxers. Not just COVID, I mean everything. From even something as trivial as the flu shot. Yet, they're willing to shill out thousands of dollars for some supposed stem cell regeneration sticker. The fucking hypocrisy and irony in their bullshit is unmatched. My wife didn't really know how to react to that, so she basically told her mom to go fuck herself, and she wants nothing to do with her again. I know I saw a few comments on the last post saying maybe we shouldn't have cut them out entirely, but now I'm starting to question why we didn't cut them out years ago, before our daughter was even a thought in our heads. About a week after the first audit, my mother-in-law showed up to our house on my day off while my wife was at work, and essentially demanded to see our daughter, forcing her way into our home by pushing past my arm. When I told her to get the hell out of my house, she had no business matching in here like that. She essentially told me that I'm unfit to be a parent because I'm depriving my daughter of help she desperately needed, because she's clearly a very sick child. My daughter is perfectly healthy right now, and in fact, has had no stuffy nose and no high temperature. Nothing. I told my MIL straight up that she was batshit insane. I went off on her about how she lied to us, went against our wishes, had the audacity to call and lie to CPS, and then show up at our house unannounced, uninvited, and march herself inside, as well as everything about her X39 LifeWave bullshit. We argued there for a while, before I finally got so fed up. I told her to leave my house before I called the police. She stormed out of the house, and in true Karen fashion, said, "This isn't over," before slamming my door. I immediately called my wife, who was of course irate. The following morning, we filed a restraining order at the courthouse from her mom and dad, because they're clearly not in their right mindset. The caseworker had to audit us a few more times as per their guidelines over the past 2 weeks, and yesterday was her last day, where she informed us that we're doing good and she's sorry for the trouble they caused. We kept her up to speed on the LifeWave shit, the showing up unannounced and the restraining order, and though she couldn't really take a side, she seemed apologetic. But my wife and I are pretty livid. We started looking at houses in another state to get as far away from her in-laws as possible. Our company has offices out there, so it's entirely possible we could just be transferred. So we're crossing our fingers that all goes well, the restraining order gets filed soon enough, and we'll get a place clear across the country so that this will hopefully be my last update. New update. Things aren't going to be as juicy in this post as the last two, but some new things have happened, so I'll just jump right in. After my in-laws called CPS on us for no discernible reasons other than we forbid them from seeing our daughter, things mostly quieted down. Some of you suggested that we should do more than just get a restraining order, so we bought some security cameras and had them installed all around our property, and our neighbors, who are pretty good friends of ours, was in the loop for the most part, and any time we had to go somewhere, not only did we have video cameras recording every time someone entered our driveway displayed directly on our phones, our neighbors kept us updated too. She stopped coming around for the first few months since she called CPS on us, but just the month before last, as we were preparing to move, my in-laws somehow got word we planned on moving states and attempted to block our driveway as her dad tried blocking the front door. Not sure what their plan was there because we have a back door and an extra side door leading from the kitchen, but I digress. Her mom blocked the driveway, stopping our U-Haul or car from leaving the property, and wouldn't budge, even after we told them we would call the police. They told us they'd move if we told them where we were moving to, but my wife told them that that wasn't happening and they had 10 minutes to leave or we'd be calling the police. My neighbor came over during the commotion, But my in-laws still wouldn't budge. My daughter is crying during all of this as my wife is trying to console her, as my neighbor and I are attempting to remove my father-in-law from the doorway, but he wouldn't move. Eventually my wife called the police, and I'm guessing another neighbor called them as well because they responded within mere minutes. My in-laws kept screaming that we were taking their rightful grandchild away, and that we'd all be damned to burn in hell for this, but honestly that just made me laugh. The police kept asking them to leave, but they wouldn't. Eventually they were arrested for refusing to leave, and the police were nice enough to call a tow truck for us to be able to back out of the driveway. Lo and behold, as the police were handcuffing my in-laws, they both had on those X39 patches, and even the police questioned them about it. But whatever, what's done is done. We were able to finally leave and on to new adventures. We've been settled in at our new house for the better part of over a month, and we're enjoying it greatly. No word from her in-laws, and they have no idea where we are. We have them blocked, but we'll eventually get messages from unknown numbers or Facebook accounts asking where we moved, but there's no way they're that foolish to believe we'll actually tell them. Luckily, neither my last state or this one have any grandparents' rights, so we're in the clear there. Thank you everyone, hopefully this is my last update. Relevant comments. Comment 1, seriously look into a P.O. box and have all mail routed there. OP, hey there. We actually did get our mail routed to a P.O. box. Comment 2, why were they not arrested for violating a restraining order? OP, we informed the police they had a restraining order, I just don't think they cared. They were more concerned with getting them off our property as opposed to them violating the restraining order. I think one of their final charges after being arrested was violation of a restraining order, though the police just didn't seem to care at the time, which is unfortunate, to say the least.